Chapter 538. It was a dead end. Those who participated in the night selection were just a group of newbie knights who had just finished breaking the seed and had yet to receive formal training in the knight regiment. The purpose of holding the conference was to judge the potential and ability specialization of the graduates through different testing methods, so that they could determine the correct development path and join the knight regiment that was most suitable for them. In theory, there were only a few newbie knights who could fight against the hybrid demons alone. Not to mention that there were currently 10 hybrid demons working together to surround Han Dong and the Vaughn siblings. With Han Dong as the center, the hybrid demons used their strange ability to completely seal off the space within 50 meters. Disguises were meaningless to them. At this moment, their true appearance was revealed. Tentacles with all kinds of pendants grew out of their disintegrated bodies. The surface of these tentacles was covered with fingers. Or they had a lot of hair. Or they had liquid secretion openings similar to large pores. However, the basic attributes of these tentacles were the same. They were the same type of tentacles that Han Dong had seen in the body of the Writers' Association president, good at disguising. This kind of camouflaged hybrid demon was not too strong in combat. However, it was not something that ordinary newbie knights could deal with. The existence of multiple hybrid demons was not a simple calculation principle like 1 + 1 is equal to 2. Once the pollution concentration increased beyond a certain limit, the knights would fall into chaos and quickly degenerate. The current state of the Vaughn siblings was very bad. Even if they had taken the holy water concentrate immediately, they could only last for 10 minutes in such an environment. The elder brother, Berkeley, calmed down immediately and tried to rope in his surveillance target. Student Nicholas, this is a dead end. We have to take out all our trump cards, find a point, and break through together. Otherwise, even if we can block the attack of the hybrid demons, we will be corrupted by the pollution in a short period of time. However, Berkeley's proposal did not receive any response. Oh no. Could it be that he has been contaminated? Brother, this group of hybrid demons seems to have been specially found for him. Look. The younger sister, Peggy, stretched out her finger. The fingers crawling in the grass, all kinds of strange hair, and plant roots covered with barbs were slowly curling around Han Dong's body. They were not directed at the siblings. The two of them were more like they had been involved. Run. If we don't leave now, we won't be able to. The siblings were already hallucinating. When they lowered their heads to look at their bodies, they felt as if tiny tentacles were crawling out of their pores, and an itchy feeling filled their entire bodies. At this moment, a laughter, poof, ha 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 ha. Under the encirclement of 10 mantis demons, they were in a hopeless situation. Han Dong, who was already surrounded by all kinds of contaminants, couldn't hold it in for a moment. His belly curled up slightly as he laughed maniacally. Tears kept flowing out of his eyes because of this wild laughter, and his head kept shaking, as if he hadn't encountered such a funny situation in a long time. However, along with this kind of wild laughter, the various contaminants crawling on Han Dong's body actually faded away on their own. Even when the siblings heard the maniacal laughter, their minds became clearer than ever, and the effects of the hallucinations were dispelled. The mental pressure on them was greatly reduced. Not only that, but their laughter also ignored the barrier and spread throughout the forest of the battle arena. Abel's furry ears, which were hidden in his white hair, twitched slightly. He immediately turned into a white wolf and rushed towards the source of the sound. In addition, many graduates who heard the meaning of the laughter also took action. During the wild laughter, the mantis demons, who had long been prepared to start a massacre, were stunned. It wasn't because the wild laughter could disturb their minds. It was about 8 months ago, when President Steve and Scarlet Mountain Villa's Count first established a cooperative relationship. These core mantis demons were also present. Their memories of that Count's laughter were still fresh in their minds. As newborn mantis demons, They couldn't be compared to a mature mantis demon like Count. Not to mention that Count still had many secrets. He had drunk the royal blood wine from the old king and had a mobile land deed that they didn't have. Scarlet Count. How is this possible? Could it be that the source of his broken seed is really him? When the 10 mantis demons looked at Han Dong from different angles, they all saw him as the terrifying Count with a conical eye protector on his face, an exaggerated big mouth, and a cross on both of his wrists. They were all stunned and couldn't attack at the first moment. Han Dong slowly reached out his hand to control his cheek. Only then did he manage to suppress his wild laughter. I'm really sorry, your true appearances are too funny. You should be planning to kill me for revenge, right? Come on, don't be polite. This kind of provocation, coupled with the endless hatred the mantis demons had for Han Dong. They ignored the interference of Count, and attacked Han Dong with the most terrifying method. The first to arrive in front of Han Dong was a mantis demon with 8 fallen heads connected to his neck through a large number of tentacles, Abahar. In the past, he disguised himself as an ordinary sheriff in the holy city and secretly collected the corpses of the fallen to deepen his disguise. By changing heads, he lived in different areas of the holy city and experienced different lives. Currently, these 8 heads each had a tongue that was more than a meter long growing from their mouth. This kind of tongue was specially targeted at the body. Once it pierced into the body, it would cause the blood and nerves to be contaminated, causing the individual to decay in a short period of time. Just as Han Dong was about to use a deeper G-arm and grab all the tongues in the sky, a manic beast's roar came. The white shadow fell, and with the ferocious beast aura on the surface of its body, it tore the dark enchantment apart. In the blink of an eye, it was as if an ancient beast had landed heavily. It directly crushed the mantis demon that attacked Han Dong from head to toe. It bit the mantis demon core crystal out of its body and crushed it. Bang! Mantis demon Abahar dead. The white shadow beast landed steadily in front of Han Dong. Upon closer inspection, it was a white-haired young man, Abel Ryan. His white hedgehog-like hair grew and reached the length of his shoulders. Abel's body leaned forward slightly. His muscles swelled and a few dragon scale patterns appeared. With every breath, steam visible to the naked eye came out between his sharp teeth. Abel Ryan of the 100 Beasts had arrived. When Abel turned his head, the ferocity of a primitive beast made the Vaughn siblings feel as if they were facing a great enemy. Cold sweat flowed down their backs. Nicholas, are you all right? What could happen? There are still 90 points here. Let's hurry up and hunt. Otherwise, when the others arrive, it won't be good. As soon as he finished speaking, the black patterns on the surface of Han Dong's left arm all lit up. Plop plop. The corrosive acid rain caused by a certain mantis demon suddenly stopped. It turned into a strange rain of crows. Thousands of dead crows fell from the sky like rain. The scene was extremely strange. During the stalemate with the mantis demons, Han Dong had already secretly set up a large formation. Drip, a drop of crow's black blood fell on Han Dong's face. It slid across his cheek, creating an exaggerated black smiley face. Secret technique Crow Cemetery. In the instant when the powerful aura of death spread out, a grim reaper, Alex, in the audience almost stood up in shock. His desire for Han Dong became even stronger. Captain Hugo also temporarily stopped writing his thesis and stared at this rather interesting scene. A giant cross formed from the corpses of the crows was formed in the forest. Under the effects of the cemetery domain, the mantis demon's life force was constantly being drained. Just like hair loss, the tentacles on their bodies were constantly falling off, unable to regenerate. Next is the entertainment segment. The graduates that had been attracted by the wild laughter all came here. Since the cemetery domain only affected the mantis demons, the graduates formed their own small teams and stared at the mantis demons that were worth 10 points, slaughtering them. Han Dong immediately left the main battlefield and squatted on a high branch. He stared at the aging mantis demons as well as the graduates that were working for free. A black smile appeared on his face. Chapter 539. In the audience. In the council's exclusive panoramic audience area, the council members immediately had a series of discussions about the Crow Cemetery. They concluded that Han Dong's use of the realm of destiny and his own talent was correct. At the same time, they all agreed that such a talent was beneficial to the Holy City. The Holy Knights in charge of the hunting competition. Commander Olivia stared at the cemetery that was created by pure black magic. She quickly ordered the elite knights to carry out the purification operation. The knights who were deeply contaminated were given immediate treatment. They would not allow any individual to fall. This is the first time I've seen such a group suppression method. What an interesting new knight. A white shadow quickly climbed up the branch Han Dong was crouching on and landed beside him. Abel, thank you for just now. I should be the one thanking you. Otherwise, the points of these 10 hybrid demons would all be on your head. Now that you've given me a hybrid demon, I don't have to work so hard to hunt hybrid demons anymore. Not all of them will be mine. However, at least 5 of them will be on my head. Moreover, some of the graduates who have seen the situation clearly will immediately leave and go to other areas to hunt. Han Dong shrugged helplessly and continued, "That's right. Actually, I don't want to do this. Being too eye-catching is not necessarily a good thing. It's just that under the circumstances where we're not allowed to use forces outside the city, it's still difficult to kill 10 hybrid demons. A large amount of energy consumption is not beneficial for the official competition. The best solution is to call on everyone to be the tool." Under the effect of the Crow Cemetery, and the joint attack of nearly 100 graduates, the remaining 9 hybrid demons were wiped out in a short period of time. In the end, individual points were given according to the contribution of the kills. The hybrid demons were killed in a short period of time. The first round of the official competition, the hunting operation, ended prematurely in half of the expected time. The battle arena returned to its original state. In total, 210 graduates survived the hunting operation. None of them were deeply contaminated. The Vaughn siblings also relied on their own abilities to resist the contamination. Outside the arena, the Holy Knights cast purification spells and removed all the contamination from their bodies. In the arena, the siblings stared at Han Dong, who was not far away from them. It was as if they were separated by a huge mountain, impossible to reach. Beckley whispered. Commander Coden specifically told us to target him, but it wasn't to hinder him from the start. His real goal was to obtain information about this student's abilities in advance so that that person can compete with him in the later rounds. However, his sister Peggy's focus was completely different. What she saw was not the big plan that Han Dong had set up. Instead, it was the powerful strength that the white-haired young man had displayed. She could not forget the scene of him killing the mantis demon with a single strike. Alonso Observer continued to preside over the meeting. Hunting points won't affect your final ranking in the night conference, so I won't show you the ranking of this hunting competition. I will only show you the list of 50 people who have advanced. Not giving out a ranking was actually a last-minute decision made by the Parliament. There was only one reason. Han Dong's individual points had already exceeded 50% of the team's total points. Alonso waved his hand. A rather large starry sky image displayed the advancement list in front of everyone. The graduates who did not see their names on the list could only sigh and leave. Most of the graduates who left would be forced to join the night conference. After waiting for the top 50 students to join the night conference, they would be forced to join the 13 night conferences and would not enjoy any preferential treatment. Han Dong, Abel, Demps, Mia, and Wenli were naturally among them. The students who stayed on the field were discussing the strange things that had happened in the hunting competition. Why did the mantis demons gather together? Where did the crazy laughter come from? who made the terrifying cross made of the corpses of the crows. As Han Dong had spread his wings and left the field immediately after creating the crow graveyard, the graduates who came later did not know anything about this. The Vaughn siblings who knew about this had already left the field. Since you are able to occupy the top 50 in the rankings, it means that you have the basic ability to conduct investigations and have reached the minimum standard of an official knight. In the following semi-finals and finals, your individual abilities will be further measured. In the end, the top 10 outstanding graduates will have the right to choose their own Knight Conference and the qualification to negotiate the conditions of joining the Knight Conference. It was every graduate's dream to be in the top 10 of the Knight Conference. This was not an era of peace, and the Holy City did not treat every knight fairly. It was necessary to select the talented ones for special training. They had to be given more resources and space to develop so that they could grow to the level of the old king. Only in this way would humans be able to reclaim the land that once belonged to them from the hands of the old king and regain their freedom. Next, you will need to draw lots. The paper you draw will determine your test in the semifinals. The specific format of the semifinals will be explained after the drawing of lots is completed. Alonso reached out and took out a square box that had already been prepared and slowly floated to the center of the arena. Due to the most basic knighthood, everyone drew lots in an orderly manner. A white paper. The first graduate stared at the white paper in his hand and was at a loss. He wondered if he had won the lottery. However, the papers that were drawn next also had no markings or word. They were all blank. Han Dong and the other 4 lined up at the back and took out the remaining pieces of white paper. There seems to be something imprinted on the inner layer of the paper. It has not been activated. The little magic I could only vaguely see a blurry shadow on the paper at 30%. Demps pushed up his glasses and stared at the white paper in front of him. His expression was not good. The rules of this year's Knight Conference are completely different from the previous years. The semi-finals might directly become the finals. Demps, you can tell. It's just a hunch, after all the graduates finished drawing lots. Alonso Observer waved his hand, and a clear mark slowly appeared on the blank piece of paper. These are the marks of the 13th Knight Conference? Alonso officially announced the format of the semifinals. According to the results of your draw, you will directly challenge the official knight in the conference. This will verify your individual abilities. Chapter 540. Fighting against an official knight. Alonso only mentioned it briefly. Before he explained the detailed rules, the scene was in an uproar. There was a fundamental difference between an official knight and a newbie who had just broken the seed. It was not only because they had received the official training of the knights and had rich experience. Once the talent tree was formed, the fate space that the knight faced would change in a complete sense. The difficulty would naturally increase in all aspects, and the internal rules would become completely different. Every time a knight could leave the fate space alive, they would be greatly improved. At the same time, new points could be allocated to the talent tree to strengthen the specialized ability after breaking the seed. Indeed, in the form of a battle between official knights, they could directly and comprehensively understand the individual strength of the graduate. The notes in the hands of Han Dong and the other 4 also showed different marks. It's over. Wow. Is there anyone who can change it for me? Mia was the first to scream as if she had won the first prize. It was the Hell Knights, the most destructive knight team. Fighting with the Hell Knights, even if the other party did not have the intention to kill, it would inevitably leave some painful scars. Mia, I'll change with you. Nicholas, you're the best. Mia approached him in high spirits and was about to hand over the slip of paper when she glanced at Han Dong's slip of paper. Her originally happy expression immediately disappeared, and she hurriedly pulled her slip of paper back. Mia then put on a silly smile. Hee hee. I suddenly feel that Hell Knights is quite good. Moreover, such an important ceremony like drawing lots will definitely not allow us to make private exchanges. Han Dong just smiled slightly. In fact, he was quite satisfied with such a result. On the surface of the note, gloomy skeleton shrouded in a cloak was printed, corresponding to the Knights of Destiny. In addition, Abel drew the Steam Knights, Demps drew the Lionheart Knights, Wenli drew the Wind Knights. Of course, the results of the draw could not be changed. After an hour, the semi-finals would officially begin. After learning the rules of the semi-finals, most of the graduates who had been eliminated because of the hunting competition breathed a sigh of relief. They were not as upset as when they had just been eliminated. Many people knew their own limit, even if they could barely squeeze into the top 50. If they were instantly killed by an official knight in the semifinals, they would lose a lot of face. In the end, no knight regiment would be willing to take them in. During the break, using high-density stone materials prepared in advance, a total of 5 50m x 50m square arenas were built in the inner area. In order to save time, 5 battles will be held at once. The fallen knights that Han Dong defeated in the Scarlet Courtyard were a group of losers who abandoned their knight's spirit and faith because of their desire. The ingestion of the blood brew seemed to have given them unexpected power, but in reality, it had caused them to deviate from the human creed. Their own fate power had also deteriorated and weakened. It was only because he was immersed in the numbness of the endless desire and the blood brew that he did not notice the degeneration of his body. The break is over. As usual, I will announce the detailed rules of the semifinals. In the semifinals, test of the prospective knight, the official knights sent by the 13 knight regiments will test your individual strength. Graduates whose names are called, please go to the arena area within 2 minutes and show the results of your draw. The corresponding knight regiment will send an official knight to the arena to fight with you. The counselors and regimental commanders will score you based on your performance in the arena. The important factors that affect your score include 1. Official knight strength 2. Net combat time, excluding non-combat time 3. Comprehensive combat index, directly evaluated by the regimental commander. If you fall off the arena, are seriously injured, lose basic mobility, or show obvious fear, the latter 3 situations will be judged by the referee. You will be forced to end the competition. We will select the top 10 with the final score in the semifinals to enter the final next. The 5 students whose names are called, please go to the arena in order from left to right. Harold Garcia, Clarissa Hill, Sheridan, Quick, Lewis, Johnson, Wenli, Austin. I'm in the first group. Blacksmith. Wenli did not expect her name to be called first and was a little overwhelmed. Wenli, do your best. This semi-final is in your favor. With Han Dong cheering her on, Wenli's nervousness was greatly reduced. Yes, I will do my best. Han Dong had never seen a human with a higher talent than Wenli. Moreover, in the last 2 years, Han Dong had less contact with Wenli. It seemed that the great blacksmith's requirements for Wenli were not low. Now was the time to see what level Wenli could reach. 2 years ago, Wenli's body could withstand 1,000 degrees of heat. Her physical strength was comparable to excellent Destiny equipment. Her stamina was unlimited and her strength was ridiculous. If we can't break through Wenli's physical defense, there might be a knight's defeat in this semifinal. As for the specifics, it depends on what kind of talent tree Wenli formed. The other members of the team naturally understood Wenli's uniqueness and paid close attention to this match. Wenli showed the paper with the bow and dagger imprint. A young knight who had been ordered in advance was about to step on the wind and descend. Suddenly, he was stopped by the captain. Jack Mason, the dark owl, sat in the lightless seat. 2 pure white halos formed in his eyes as he stared seriously at the fiery-haired girl in the arena. The great blacksmith's adopted daughter. This hair color and figure, as well as the power flowing in her body, could it be related to that person? Sabins, your attributes are not suitable to participate in this battle. Me. This male archer had been in the regiment for 7 years and believed that he could easily end this unequal match. Judy, you go. following the captain's orders. One of the knights was wrapped in a cloak, leaving only a shadow in his position. In the next second, he was standing on the stage. Commander Judy Becherank, the one sent by Captain Jack, was not an ordinary knight, but the commander of the Hummingbird Guard Regiment. The reason was simple. In Captain Jack's opinion, Wenley's vitality was the bane of his regiment. If he were to lose in the night assembly, his own knight regiment would lose all face. Captain, how much power can I use? No limit. You only need to fight seriously and end the match within 5 minutes. Yes. Knight Judy, who was wrapped in a cloak, was only a little over 1.5 meters tall. The unique cloak covered his body and appearance. His right hand held a light wooden shortbow, and his left hand held several daggers between his fingers. It seemed that these daggers were arrows. Chapter 541. The leader has changed at the last minute. He seems to have seen some of Wenli's characteristics. This new knight is so fast. It's much faster than Senior Lucius's full activation of blood energy. This shouldn't be an ordinary knight anymore, right? Han Dong had always kept the little magic eye in a 30% hidden state. From the audience to the arena was completed in the blink of an eye. Normally, people would only see 2 images of the knight disappearing and reappearing, and they would think that the knight had used some kind of secret space technique. However, Han Dong had captured 3 images, a blurry dragging scene of super-fast movement. Relying on pure speed to reach the level of space transfer, it just happened to restrain Wenli's clumsy attribute that focused on strength. And the dagger between the knight's fingers seems a bit strange. It's no wonder. If an official knight loses to a graduate, the leader's face will be lost. I hope Wenli can have a special performance. On the other hand, disguised as an ordinary audience, the great blacksmith Heydrich, who was hiding in the crowd, almost stood up and cursed. In the end, he held back and planned to find trouble with the Wind Knights after the event. Owl, this guy, actually sent the fastest hummingbird to test Wenli's strength. How tricky! This time Wenli is really going to suffer. Damn lightless, his eyes are still so sharp. The score of the semi-final assessment was also related to the knight. The Hummingbird Guard commander that Wenli faced had a basic score of 50 points, and the other ordinary knights only had a basic score of 10 points. Hello, Sir Knight, my name is Wenli Austin. I graduated from the Knight Academy or Mechanic Department. Judy Becherank. A voice that only Wenli could hear came from under the cloak. The referee and host of the competition, Alonso Observer. When the two entered the arena, it meant that the competition had officially begun, but the evaluation results would only record the net battle time. Wenli had already held her blacksmith hammer in her hand at the first moment. At the same time, she was also wearing a crystal necklace to make up for her lack of soul defense. "Where's your armor? It's best if you can equip it," Judy asked. She didn't want to accidentally shoot a graduate and cause unnecessary trouble for herself. Wenli explained embarrassedly that Master doesn't let me wear armor. He hopes that I can polish a body stronger than armor. As soon as her voice fell, Judy raised her hand very quickly. When the bowstring vibrated, light and shadow flickered. A dagger was less than 2 meters away from Wenli, flying straight towards Wenli's abdomen. Ding! Sparks flew everywhere. The crisp sound of metal clashing resounded throughout the arena. The dagger spun rapidly in the air and bounced towards the Knights of Misfortune on the opposite side of the spectator seats. It was caught by a demon dweller. It was clear that the power of this arrow was not weak at all. However, Wenli's lower abdomen had only broken through a layer of skin. This scene shocked everyone present. The knight Roland, the great demon, and Malone all looked at him with interest. Jack, the leader of the Wind Knights, stared at the red-haired girl's body. He seemed to recall someone from the Holy City. The person who was most shocked was Judith, the one who launched this attack. Although the arrow she shot was not at full strength, it was still not something that a newcomer could block. A direct hit was completely ineffective. One had to know that she was the close combat archer of the Wind Knights. She was good at shooting at short distances. Because of her talent, she could turn her arrows into daggers that were more lethal. She relied on her super-fast movement to shoot at close range. This is a human body? Judith was very clear about the structure of the human body. However, her shot was bounced off by the high-density muscles. It was beyond the scope of ordinary human beings. No wonder the leader let me go on stage. Since I have such a body, I can attack without worry. In the blink of an eye, Judith disappeared directly under everyone's eyes. There were no more than 20 people in the audience who could clearly capture the hummingbird knight. It was not only the control of the wind, but also the absolute control of speed, coupled with the speed support given by the talent tree. Close-range shooting, 5 daggers with wind cutting, were shot from different directions to Wenli's armpits, left and right, lumbar vertebrae, front neck, and ankles. These positions were relatively weak areas of the human body. As long as there was one place that could break through Wenli's physical defense, the hummingbird knight would continuously shoot at the same place in the following time to determine the victory. But ding ding ding! Without exception, all the daggers were bounced off. They either flew to the spectator seats or were inserted into the surface of the ground under the arena. It was ineffective. At this time, Wenli also moved. Although she could not keep up with such speed at all and could not even see the target's movements, the knight was around. So she reached out and grabbed a blank space. It seemed to be a simple grab. This move was a unique skill that Wenli honed in the underground furnace fort. It was blacksmith's grasp, personally taught by the great blacksmith. A huge suction force formed at the grasping position and successfully affected Judith Knight, who was moving at high speed. Crash! The cloak used to hide the figure was caught in Wenli's hand. A smaller figure had already retreated with short black hair and a delicate small face, a height of just 1.5 meters and a weight of less than 35 kilograms. She seemed to be less than 30 years old. There were 3 ink marks of equal length on her left and right cheek. The upper body was wearing a rather light sleeveless close-fitting silk dress, revealing her slender waist. The lower body was also wearing light shorts, revealing Judith's slender short legs. However, Wenli's action of grabbing the cloak, or the result of revealing Judith's appearance, directly angered the knight. Wenli also looked embarrassed and was about to return the cloak. A sense of death lingered in her heart. Perhaps others could not feel it. Wenli seemed to have entered a special domain unique to this knight, standing in a closed space with countless floating daggers. The people of the Wind Knight Regiment really can't afford to play. Wenli admit defeat. With the great blacksmith's sound transmission, Wenli quickly raised her hand and admitted defeat. This Judith Knight had already pulled the short bow to the side of Wenli's neck. As Wenli admitted defeat, she could only take back the dagger that was about to shoot. She grabbed the cloak, turned around, and returned to the knights. Wenli was stunned and slightly frustrated at the same time. She estimated that she could not enter the top 10. However, she couldn't hold on for long. After all, she couldn't see the knight's movements at all. Once the opponent had the means to shoot through her body, Wenli would lose. It was just a matter of time. Domain. Just now, Wenli fell into the unique domain of this knight, and her defense was greatly weakened. Surrendering was the right choice. However, Wenli's body could block such a shot, which was enough to shock the knights. Sister Wenli's broken seed should also be inclined to defense. And, if she had really caught the knight, there might have been a dramatic reversal of the outcome. Han Dong saw the reason why Wenli admitted defeat at a glance. Another main reason why an official knight was far stronger than a trainee knight was the formation of domain. However, Han Dong had already felt the domain when he fought against Scarlet Count. He had already stepped into the domain in advance before undergoing the training of the knights. I embarrassed myself. Wenli walked towards her teammates with an embarrassed face. You have done very well. Look at the other arenas. The matches in the other 4 arenas had already ended. The graduates were completely defeated. There were even 2 graduates who did not have the slightest resistance and lost the match instantly. Chapter 542. When Lee's semi-final results were actually not bad. However, whether or not he could enter the top 10 was another matter. After all, among the 50 people who advanced to the semi-finals, there were also graduates who were beyond comprehension. When the 3rd semi-final began, another very interesting student was called out. The vice-captain of the Hell Knights had a proud smile on his face. It's finally Sean's turn to fight. Captain, please take a look at this kid's potential. He is definitely the strongest among the young generation of the Holy City. Malone supported his chin with one hand and said softly, Otto, the word strongest can't be used casually. It's my problem, but Sean will definitely not disappoint you, Captain. Moreover, with Sean's performance, the counselors will definitely pay more attention to the development of the underground area. The National Royal Knight Academy, which had been heavily invested in the construction of the National Royal Knight Academy, will become vulnerable in front of Sean. The great wizard of Hell, Otto, had absolute confidence in the Hell Kid he had cultivated. Even though he had seen Han Dong use the Crow Cemetery in the hunting competition, or able tear and kill the hybrid demon in one blow, Otto's confidence did not decrease. Sean Nibirius. When this name was read out, Han Dong immediately reacted. Everyone, this is the Hell Kid I met during the registration. He's very strong. After being evaluated as very strong by Han Dong, the whole team naturally stared at the graduate shrouded in a cloak seriously. There was a slight twisting phenomenon in the surrounding air, which was caused by the scorching aura emitted from his body. After entering the arena, the results of the draw were immediately displayed. Imprint, magnifying glass and question mark. Unfortunately, this was the case. This Hell Kid just happened to draw the most special secret word in the 13 Knight regiments. This gave Captain Hugo a headache. After all, he had already reported it to the higher-ups before. There were too few people in his regiment, and there were too many things pressing on his head. He could not arrange for manpower at all. Who knew that the higher-ups would still arrange the relevant assessment work? Charlie, you go. This kid seems to be a student that Otto spent a lot of effort to cultivate. Be careful. Knight Charlie, who was wearing a pair of depth reading glasses, a checkered shirt and a small vest, was vexed over the documents in his hands. He did not accept the request given by Captain Hugo. Why me? I haven't finished calculating the final accounts of my projects. Why don't you let Mira do it? Come back quickly. You can hand in the settlement documents later. Mira has more things to do than you do. What should I do? I suddenly feel like quitting the guild. Charlie's face was filled with displeasure. Sure. Let's settle the debt first. You can leave anytime. It's just a joke. Then I'll go. If I can't beat this Hellbrat leader, please don't blame me. Why would I blame you? Our guild is at the bottom. Isn't it normal for us to lose face? However, the group of counselors is watching all of this. If you perform well enough, they might be able to reduce our workload and increase our salary. Yes, raise my salary. Hearing this, the bespectacled young man, Charlie, immediately became interested. He carefully climbed down from the spectator seat. Many of the spectators and students who did not understand the secret word knights would have doubts about the identity of the bespectacled young man when they saw this situation. Even if he was a knight, he would definitely be the kind of civilian worker who would not rush to the front lines. No matter how one looked at it, he was too weak. However, Han Dong stared at Charlie seriously, his eyes full of doubts. How can there be so many capillaries in his body? It's almost 10 times that of an ordinary person. No, 20 times, or even more. Han Dong had a premonition that if he were to fight with Charlie, he might lose in a short time. Charlie LeBlanc Bermanchev. Demps silently read out the person's full name. This gentle image is completely different from the terrifying image 10 years ago. His aura has also changed. There should be very few people present who can recognize this knight. Demps positioned this match as the most valuable match so far. After adjusting the monolithic bronze mirror, he focused all his attention on the arena area, while the other arenas were in full swing. Only then did little brother Charlie jog over to the arena area. With a panting appearance, he softly muttered, "Sigh, sitting for too long really hurts the body. Moreover, why do I feel a chill in my head? If this goes on, I'll really have to consider leaving the group." Touching his somewhat miserable hair, Charlie could only shake his head helplessly. "Sir Knight, can we start?" At this moment, a heavy and urgent voice came from the opposite side of the arena. This kid from hell seemed impatient. He had been waiting in the underground area for too long. Now was the best time for him to show himself to the entire holy city. Charlie tidied up his sleeves as he answered indifferently. Whoosh, the cloak was lifted. The red iron body that looked like it was hammered out of hell's iron drill was displayed in front of everyone in the audience. Steam continued to rise. The skull mask that was once worn during registration was also taken off at this moment. There were 2 broken demon horns on his forehead. There was also a curved horn on his chin. A pure gold nose ring was worn on his huge nose. White gas was constantly exhaling from his mouth. In addition to his face, this student's body also had many more inhuman characteristics, mainly 2.1. A pair of huge fists that were far beyond the proportions of ordinary people, pure black like some kind of rock from hell and the size of a head. 2. A smooth red tail fell on the ground to improve his balance. At the same time, a domain that only an official knight could master spread out. Iron Prison Domain. Increases one's own defense and strength, increases the ambient temperature, and weakens the enemy's armor. Sean's goal was very simple. He wanted to prove his strength to the Holy City by defeating the knight head-on in the arena. Moreover, this was also the basic requirement of the Great Mage of Hell for him. Using strength to drive speed. Boom! When his legs bent and he stomped on the ground with all his strength. The high-density arena cracked because of this. Sean charged at the seemingly thin and weak knight at his fastest speed. The sandbag-sized fist swung out with all his strength, and the surrounding air was torn apart by the huge force. Just as the fist was about to hit Knight Charlie, who was tidying up his sleeves, all of a sudden, Sean's pupils dilated, and through a special technique, he stopped charging forward and suddenly retracted his fist. He jumped back with all his strength and returned to his original position. A trace of cold sweat overflowed from Sean's forehead and immediately evaporated due to the high temperature. The moment he got close to Knight Charlie, Sean felt that at least 10 pairs of eyes were staring at him. If that punch was thrown, it was very likely that he would be killed. Chapter 543. Within the Hell Knights. Commander Malone had long known about the uniqueness of this Hell Brat. However, even if it was a high-level demon bloodline and a high degree of adaptability, it was nothing in Malone's eyes. However, Malong's interest was piqued by the situation in the arena. Sean did not hesitate to consume a lot of stamina to stop the fierce attack and decisively chose to retreat. Such insight and decisiveness were excellent qualities that a powerful knight should have. Not bad. When most of the body is changed by the demon physique, the desire of a fury will also increase. He was able to maintain a calm heart even when his body was demonized, and he was able to fully analyze the situation of the battle while attacking. Otto, this student you've trained is indeed not bad. Hearing the praise from the commander, Otto smiled from ear to ear. Haha. Sean's true strength is still far from being displayed. Maybe he can defeat this knight head-on. Defeat? It's still far from that. Otto, do you know this secret word knight? I don't have any impression. Since you went to hell to accept the Demon King's assessment, I rarely participate in the knight election. This knight should have just been selected a few years ago. He's so young, but he has the aura of a king. I don't know what method Commander Hugo used to recruit this knight. In the arena, no one could feel the danger more intuitively than Sean. The secret word knight, Charlie, clearly looked weak. However, the moment Sean approached, it was as if he had fallen into the deepest and most terrifying dungeon of hell. Dozens of hungry demons cast the most primitive look of hunger and desire, trying to turn Sean into a part of their bodies. Charlie, who had buttoned up his shirt, said in a praising tone, "Your reaction is quite fast. You've bought yourself time to continue to add points." Sean did not reply, and he did not dare to hold back at all. In the following time, he had to give it his all. Otherwise, he might not be able to enter the final. The official competition allowed 2 pieces of equipment. Although Sean was valued by the deputy commander, he only received preferential treatment in training. He was allowed to receive regular army training in the Hell Knights in advance and train his body in the environment of hell. The problem of equipment could only rely on Sean himself. Born in hell, he was naturally more inclined to attack, shout, and used the high-quality materials he obtained from the Destiny realm to forge 2 powerful weapons suitable for himself from the hellish iron drill. The equipment was large and heavy. Sean used a type of demon rune to preserve his weapons. Now the 2 runes were crushed at the same time. It was accompanied by lava gushing out. 2 heavy weapons of different styles were held in Sean's left and right hands. Sean's extraordinary strength, combined with his giant palms, allowed him to wield heavy weapons with one hand that ordinary people would need to wield with both hands. Malcolm's fist, unique purple. It was a heavy hammer with a large phalanx embedded in its surface. Its main material was Malum the slave master's entire arm, and it was forged with high-quality metal materials. Grants the wielder a strong armor-piercing ability. There is a certain chance that when hitting an individual with a body weaker than Malum, the wielder will be able to directly crush the target regardless of their level of defense. Bone-cutting axe, blue quality. An even larger axe with a blade made from thousands of hellhound fangs could inflict great damage to flesh lifeforms, causing them to bleed. The sledgehammer broke the armor, and the giant axe tore the flesh apart. This was Sean's attack method as a preparatory knight, with the most simple strength to offset the huge weight brought by the weapon. Sean's movements were unhindered, and there was a faint feeling that he was still growing. So strong! Blacksmith only could clearly feel the aura of this power. There is indeed something. This Hell graduate's destructive power is amazing. Demps also gave a positive evaluation. After Han Dong took a few glances at the Hell student, his attention was still on Knight Charlie. Han Dong still couldn't understand what this seemingly weak knight was hiding. How did he use the thin line structure in his body that was dozens of times more than that of ordinary people? I should be able to see it soon. Since the game will only calculate the net battle time, such a stalemate is meaningless. Instead, it will consume Sean's physical strength. At most, Sean will make a move in 5 seconds. Han Dong bent forward slightly and raised his attention, not willing to miss any details. Sure enough, 5 seconds passed. Sean's body swelled up, and a slightly red breath came out of his mouth. He charged straight at Knight Charlie again. Different from the last time. When they were 5 meters apart, Sean suddenly raised his feet and stomped on the ground. For the clever use of strength, Sean used this stomping method to concentrate the inertia of the forward charge on the soles of his feet, using this to turn body technique, transient step, whoosh. An afterimage was left at the previous position. Sean arrived behind Knight Charlie in an instant. This scene made several commanders reveal surprised expressions. Grand Knight Roland of the Lionheart Knights couldn't help but sigh in a low voice. With such a strong body and 2 overloaded weapons, he can still achieve transient step? The Hell Knights have really picked up a treasure. Transient step succeeded. The two weapons in Sean's hands had already been swung out. Got it! The heavy hammer hit the surface of Knight Charlie's body. Crack! It was not the sound of flesh breaking, but the crisp sound of some kind of hard shell wood breaking. The body was broken. The severed limbs that were thrown into the air were merely puppets that looked like humans. At this time, one of Knight Charlie's feet stepped firmly on the top of Sean's head. What a domineering strength and physical control! I was almost hit by you. The humiliation of being stepped on made Sean angry. His body grew even bigger, and when he waved his weapon above his head, Knight Charlie had already landed firmly on the open space 10 meters away. The power of hell fully activated. For a time, red lines visible to the naked eye appeared on Sean's body. His strength and speed reached their maximum. Just as Shaoan continued to rush forward, he felt that there was something wrong with the operation of his muscles. Upon closer inspection, there were thousands of transparent thin threads that were hard to see with the naked eye that had already covered his entire body. These thin threads were secretly inserted into Sean's body by some unknown means when the two of them came into contact just now. Mysticism. A stitcher! Han Dong exclaimed in shock. Due to the influence of these thin threads, Sean's sprint became out of his control. He changed his direction and passed Knight Charlie, and it was even difficult to stop. If this continued, he would directly rush out of the arena. At the last second, Sean used pure brute force and muscle hardening to clamp the thin threads connected to the key parts of his body. He forcefully stopped his body and stopped at the edge of the arena. Sizzle! Steam rose. Sean used the results of his training in hell to raise his body temperature to soften these thin threads and break free. At this moment, a strange puppet controlled by Knight Charlie was already close behind Sean. It pushed gently. Fall out of the arena. The match is over. Chapter 544. As Hellbrat fell out of the arena, the entire arena fell silent. Even the official knights in the adjacent arena turned their gazes over and stared at the strange puppet floating at the edge of the arena. The strength displayed by this Hellbrat, whether it was his domain or his subtle control of super strength, had completely reached or even far exceeded the standards of an official knight. However, everyone was more concerned about this secret word knight. Charlie LeBlanc Bermanchev, someone in the audience, suddenly said this name. 10 years ago, the first place of the Knight Conference was selected as a Mystery Branch graduate. Now, the commander of the Secret Word Knights, the Puppet Guards. It seems like it's really him. Why do I feel that his aura is completely different from 10 years ago? I remember that back then, this person single-handedly controlled several terrifying puppets created from the prototype of the Monster of Fate during the conference. He defeated several graduates one after another and forcefully won first place. That murderous aura shocked even many commanders. Why can't I feel any murderous aura now? There doesn't seem to be much emotion in his eyes. Moreover, his hair seems to have thinned a lot, and he has lost weight. Is it because he joined the most mysterious Secret Word Knights and received some kind of unique training? The audience was in an uproar. Knight Charlie, on the other hand, had a calm expression as he withdrew his puppet. He slowly walked past Brat, who had fallen out of the arena, and reached out to pat Brat's thick and hot shoulder. You have calming muscles which are pretty good. Unfortunately, you're not completely calm. If the Hell Knights requirements for you are not high enough, you can try to join our Hell Knights. This kind of environment is more suitable for self-cultivation. Knight Charlie seemed to be extending an olive branch. In fact, it wasn't because he cherished talent. It was because he saw that Brat's strength was relatively great. If he joined the Secret Word Knights, some of the physical work would be greatly reduced. Brat naturally couldn't change his mind. He gritted his teeth and didn't say anything. He wasn't angry either. He knew very well that his defeat this time was purely because his skills were inferior. inside the Hell Knights. Archmage Otto was naturally dissatisfied with such an outcome. The result he wanted was for Brat to defeat the knight head-on and shock the entire audience. "Commander, Brat hasn't." Malone stretched out his hand and pressed it down, indicating that Otto didn't need to explain. "This outcome is pretty good, yes." Charlie LeBlanc Bermanchev. "Otto, get someone to investigate this person." "All right." "Commander Hugo, how many experts did you recruit during the time I wasn't in the Holy City?" He even wrapped them up and hid them in his own order of knights. Commander Malone glanced at the Secret Word Knights in the distance. It seemed that the 8 Knights of the Secret Word who had come to participate in this competition were all very interesting. Each of them carried a unique aura. That puppet just now was an evil spirit? Offstage, Han Dong paid close attention to the entire process. The moment Sean used Flash Step to circle back, Knight Charlie used an even faster Flash Step to circle back. Through the touch of his palm, the thin thread in his body instantly penetrated Xiaoen's body. Moreover, the thin thread has the ability to ignore physical defenses. Even Xiaoen's demon body was unable to withstand it and was instantly invaded. But the last puppet, Han Dong saw it clearly. When Sean resisted the control of the thin thread with brute force and stabilized his body at the edge of the ring, Knight Charlie immediately followed up with an extremely fast finger manipulation process. He directly pulled out this strange puppet wrapped in white rags from the shadows. Through the rags, the little magic eye saw a pale-faced puppet. Its entire body exuded a ghostly aura similar to a ghost story. It seemed like a very simple push, but it pushed Sean directly off the ring. In fact, Sean, who was standing firmly at the edge of the ring, immediately dug his demon toes into the ground and used his demon tail to stabilize his center of gravity to avoid making mistakes. Even if an ordinary warrior were to collide head-on, he would definitely not be able to knock Sean off the ring. Moreover, Sean, who fell off the ring, took a full 5 minutes to stagger up with great difficulty. It's definitely a puppet in the form of an evil spirit. I'm not mistaken. Just now, the puppet's hands directly passed through Sean's body and pushed on the surface of his soul, causing Sean to suddenly lose his balance and fall. Because his soul was affected to a certain extent, he couldn't stand up for a long time. This senior knight is definitely a master-level stitcher. His exquisite body movement coupled with his almost terrifying control of the thin thread, and the puppet technique wasn't fully used at all. My hunch is right. If I were to fight against this person, I would definitely lose. Demps added on the side, Charlie, a genius stitcher who came out of the occult 10 years ago. Back then, he fought against other graduates in the competition. Because of his strong hostility, he almost accidentally killed someone. In the subsequent selection process, even if he was ranked first, no knight regiment chose him. In the end, he was chosen by Captain Hugo. I didn't expect that after 10 years, there would be such a big change now. Just like that, the kid from hell that Han Dong was worried about was defeated. The next match followed. Demps Martin. When Alonso Observer said the name, there was a slight pause. After all, his Sorcerer Knight Regiment had already talked to Demps in private. It was basically a predetermined member. It depended on how far Demps could go in the competition. Demps had drawn the Lionheart Knight Regiment, which specialized in defense. Grand Knight Roland didn't think too much and said in a low voice, "Demps Martin." The librarian once stood up for him in the Great Betrayer incident. Obviously, he's an elite among elite. Faulkner, you go. Captain, we have a friendly relationship with the Sorcerer Knight Regiment. This student must be their predetermined student. If I go against him, will it make the Knight Regiment unhappy? No, don't worry and go, don't go easy on him. Once there's a chance, just knock him out of the arena. Since he's an elite, he should have backup measures to deal with emergencies. Okay. In the Knight Regiment, a slightly plump knight, whose armor was specially made to look like a bucket, landed heavily on the arena like a meatball. He didn't wear any shield. Only a crystal sword shining with a 7-colored luster was attached to his back. When this person came out, Alonso Observer, as the referee, was somewhat unhappy. Refraction Knight, Faulkner Banmus. Demps is in trouble. Abel had heard about the special knights in the Holy City. He seems to be a very special knight. When Han Dong looked at this person, he was blinded by the dazzling light. Knight Faulkner's special ability is unique in the Holy City. He can reduce magic damage by 70% and can completely reflect it. Even the captain of the Sorcerer Knight Regiment can't defeat this knight in a one-on-one fight. Han Dong smiled. Good. I might be able to see Demps's deeper side. Han Dong knew very well that Demps was not only proficient in magic. At this moment, Dempus asked the referee, Alonso, who was on the stage, a question. Excuse me, the competition only allows us to bring 2 pieces of equipment. Can I change one now? Alonso already believed that this competition was not fair, so he naturally stood on Demps's side and nodded in agreement. Yes. Demps took off the soft armor on his body that could greatly increase his defense and handed it to the referee. At the same time, he looked at the audience. Is there any senior knight who can lend me a spear-like weapon? It doesn't need to be of great quality, just ordinary will do. Take it. A heavy training spear made of black iron was thrown to the arena by the Lionheart Knight Regiment. Unexpectedly, Demps directly grabbed the heavy spear and pulled it back. A gust of spear energy was released. The weight is about the same. Come on, senior knight. Chapter 545. Spear. In the Battle of Scarlet Mountain Villa, Demps drew lightning with his spear. The perfect combination of magic and melee combat directly annihilated the mature hybrid demon's body. That exaggerated and exciting scene was still engraved in the hearts of Lucius and the others. Demps was an all-around knight in the true sense. Not only was he proficient in various elements of magic, but he was also proficient in unique spear technique. Correspondingly, his physical skills were not weak at all. However, many of Demp's abilities were based on the 6th finger. In the Knight Conference, this finger, which belonged outside the city, could not be used. Demp's abilities would also be greatly weakened. Using a rare hybrid demon formed from pure magic crystals to complete your own broken seed. Demps, what level have you reached now? Let me have a good look. Compared to Hellkid, Han Dong paid more attention to Demps. He even went past the crowd to the front of the audience area. In the ring, the stout Refraction Knight, Faulkner Bandermus, stared at Demps, who was holding a spear, and smiled. If the graduate who needed his combat test was really a pure mage, this match would be meaningless. It would even make him look like a bully. Among the knights who majored in the library, there are also many melee mages. Although they attach elemental magic to their weapons, the lethality is indeed very strong. But students who graduated from the library are fundamentally different from those who graduated from the Crusade Army. The basic physical attributes are completely incomparable. Whether it is strength, reaction speed, or endurance, they are all inferior. Knight Faulkner did not rely on his refraction physique to avoid any training. On the contrary, he had always been pursuing the ultimate defense, trying to turn his body into the most reliable meat bucket barrier. Through overeating, he obtained a fat body. Then, through his unique talent tree, a crystal, he turned the fat layer into a crystal interlayer. In terms of defense, Knight Faulkner was really one of the more famous ones in the Lionheart Knight. Knight Faulkner only needed to wait for Demps to attack and find the right opportunity to squeeze Demps, whose physical attributes were very ordinary, out of the ring through refraction and crystal defense. What is this? While waiting, Knight Faulkner saw a scene that he could not understand. Dark blue magical patterns appeared under Demps's skin. They looked like magical circuits, but in reality, these dark blue magical patterns were constantly changing and flowing. Pure dark blue magic energy. It slowly flowed along Dempsey's palm into the ordinary black iron heavy spear. For a moment, the essence of the heavy spear seemed to be changing. Knight Faulkner could smell a hint of danger from the heavy spear with dark blue patterns on it. How is it possible to transform an ordinary weapon into a high-grade weapon with extremely destructive power? Moreover, this kid's body seemed to have been strengthened as well. What exactly were these dark blue patterns? A kind of self-strengthening buff spell? Knight Faulkner was not the only one who could not understand. Most of the audience could feel the change in Demps, but they did not know how he did it. Knights of misfortune. The white great devil bent forward slightly and stared at the changes in Dempsey's body. As the flesh on his face pulled, his mouth reappeared. Pure demonic essence amplification, the perfect embryonic form of a demonic person. Demps knew very well how to obtain points in the semifinals. Other than the intensity of the battle against the knight and the duration of the battle, the most important thing was the overall evaluation of the battle. Against such a defense-oriented knight, Demps had to start from the last point if he wanted to obtain a good result. Under the situation where magic was blocked, he had to focus on close combat. Let's see how strong the refraction is. Demps flicked his left index finger. An icicle shot straight at the barrel-shaped knight. Ding! Dempus was startled and hastily dodged to the side as fast as he could. The icicle bounced back at twice the speed and shot into the wall at the side of the field, forming a small frozen area. Amplifying refraction. Isn't this too abnormal? Demps immediately rejected the idea of using magic and focused his whole body on close combat. Fortunately, after breaking the seed, I focused all my time on the structure of demonic body and the flexible use of demonic essence. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll fall here. After adjusting the single bronze mirror, which was also Demp's second item, it seemed to be observing the weakness information. When he took a step forward, more than half of the audience was shocked, and some even stood up directly. Just because they couldn't see clearly. This is a student who graduated from a library? Some of the audience even suspected that Observer Alonso had made a mistake in the character introduction. Indeed, Demp's speed was so fast that it was second only to the hummingbird knight who appeared at the beginning. He only left a blue light in the air. Demonic essence flows through the body. In addition to increasing magic affinity and magic enhancement, it can also increase the physical body? No wonder this guy didn't care about the hybrid demons in the Scarlet Mountain Villa and had to go to the Magic Crystal Valley hundreds of kilometers away to find rare and pure hybrid demons. As expected of the new king. So picky. Seeing Demp's performance, Han Dong also showed a knowing smile. Of course, speed was only one aspect. The most important thing was the individual's strength. Just when Demps and the Refraction Knight were close to each other, the 187-year-old Archmage of Wizard God Knight Legion Jaros Midome showed an extremely rare smile on his wrinkled face and gave a two-word evaluation. Genius! The spear was like a dragon. Ding! 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 The momentum generated by Demp's spear was not weaker than that of the Crusader Legion graduate. Moreover, the most important thing was that Knight Faulkner, who was focused on defense, was slowly retreating. His offense was very strong. The most important thing was, every time Dempus shot out his gun, it was with a purpose. How did this kid know about the connection points of the crystal? Moreover, every attack was aimed at the connection points without any deviation. Is it because of the bronze mirror he is wearing? Knight Faulkner's defense was extremely high. But there was a problem. His physical armor was made up of a large number of crystals, and the connection points between the crystals were the weakest part of his defense. His fierce attacks did not stop at all. After so many matches, this was the first time a graduate had suppressed a knight. Knight Faulkner was also retreating to the edge of the ring. Just when he was forced into a corner, he had no choice but to release his domain. For a moment, the whole arena was filled with dazzling crystals. Crystal domain. Suppress the magic level in the area, increase the physical defense of the crystals, and at the same time, increase the physical defense of the crystals. Ding! When the spear hit, a layer of rainbow-colored crystals appeared on the surface of Knight Faulkner's body. Physical reflection. The power of the spear was reflected back to Demps, and the spear almost bounced out of his hand. Seizing the opportunity, Fox reached out and grabbed Demps's clothes. With such a fat body, his strength was not small. Just when he tried to throw Demps out of the ring, the surrounding crystals were suddenly covered and occupied by a blue-gray luster. Magic Crystal Domain. Chapter 546. The domain covered the area. This was based on the fact that the level of the domain was the same. Due to the complete restraint between the attributes, the domain completely covered the opponent. Demps's magic crystal domain completely restrained the Refraction Knight's crystal domain. He directly covered the area and the situation of the battle changed instantly. Knight Faulkner was shocked. He did not expect his domain to be covered. If this continued, coupled with Demps's crafty marksmanship and inexhaustible Pandora demon energy, Faulkner would definitely lose, unless he used his trump card, which was the real killing move he prepared to use against the high-level Mantis demons in the Great Expedition. However, this was just a test match for the younger generation. At the crucial moment, it seemed that due to the continuous high-intensity spear attacks, a high load of Pandora demon energy penetrated his body. Demps's spear attack deviated and did not hit the weak point. As a result, the spearhead hit Knight Faulkner's hard armor head-on. The impact made Demps's hand numb, and he could not withdraw his spear for a moment. Seizing the opportunity, he quickly used the crystal sword in his hand to block the attack. He grabbed Demps's clothes and threw him out of the arena. Faulkner's strength was also very strong. Or rather, all the members of the Lionheart Knights had extraordinary strength. Such a brute force throw was enough to send Demps flying to the edge of the wall 100 meters away. His body was even completely embedded in the wall. But at the same time when he threw Faulkner, Demps controlled the Pandora demon energy in his body and softened his body. He wrapped around Knight Faulkner's body like an invertebrate creature. With an unexpected physical technique, he pulled Fox out of the arena. It was a draw. Fox took off his helmet and revealed his white, fat, and oily face. He questioned the young man who fell beside him. "Why did you make a mistake on purpose?" Demps quickly waved his hand. "On purpose? No. My body is not strong enough to support such a full firepower close combat posture. Just now I was indeed at my limit. The mistake came too suddenly. I should be the one thanking you for holding back. The crystal sword in your hand was only used to defend and block my attacks. You have never used it to attack. If you really used your killing move, I would have died without armor. You brat, you saw this from the very beginning. You purposely took off your soft armor in exchange for a weapon so that I wouldn't be able to beat you up." Indeed, Knight Faulkner's attack combined with the power of the crystal could cause damage to the magic life. He was afraid that he would accidentally kill Demp. "Thank you, Senior. The Sorcerer Deity Knights are really lucky. With your participation, we might be able to replace that living fossil in a few years." Faulkner was not a petty person. It was a fact that his domain had been covered. He had lost willingly, and he had completely acknowledged this young man in his heart. Faulkner, who had returned to the Knight Order, was not held accountable by Captain Roland for his loss in the match. "Faulkner, how do you feel?" Before the competition, there was a rumor that there would be a student with potential to be a captain in this batch of graduates. It seems that it's true. This student has the spirit and quality to be a leader, and his strategy is also very strong. Grand Knight Roland agreed with this evaluation. Let's continue watching the competition. Perhaps there will be more interesting graduates than him. Knights of Misfortune. This strange knight regiment was different from the other knight regiments in terms of atmosphere. The members of the Knight Order were like believers, worshipping the great demon captain as a godlike existence. Many knights could feel the pure demonic aura emitted by Demps. However, in front of the great demon, everyone had a cold expression and did not discuss anything. Archimedes. This knight called Archimedes was the former vice-captain of the Knights of Misfortune. He was good at releasing damage-type curses and was a powerful functional knight. After the former captain was defeated by the great demon, he was also not very satisfied with the former captain. After seeing the true strength of the great demon, he immediately expressed his loyalty. Archimedes' damage-type curses could perfectly complement the great demon captain's powerful destructive power. Slowly, Archimedes gained the great demon's trust. With his outstanding management ability, he continued to be the vice-captain. Archimedes was in charge of all matters in the Knight Order. Currently, Archimedes, who looked to be in his 60s, was skinny and had a beer belly. He immediately shrugged and lowered his head when the captain called him. "Captain, what's the matter?" "This student, can you let him join my Knight Order?" "This. Demps Martin is this year's most outstanding student in the Knight Academy or library. He is the student of the Vice-Curator, Hera. Moreover, he has officially joined the Sorcerer Knight Order half a year ago. It will be difficult to poach him. Can you or can you not?" Facing the captain's question. "Yes, but you will have to pay a high price. I will find a chance to talk to this graduate alone." "Okay." Demps's performance shocked everyone. A mage who graduated from the library displayed close combat strength that was not weaker than the Crusaders and fought to a draw with the Meat Shield Knight of the Lionheart Knight. The spectators of the council were also discussing Demps's performance just now. They confirmed that Demps did not use any ability outside the city and marked him as qualified in the special register. "Demps, you are not bad." Han Dong slapped Demps on the shoulder. He did not expect Demps to be able to do this when his attributes were restrained and he could not use any ability outside the city. "Demps, you are so powerful." When Lee's eyes were also shining with golden light. Okay, the rest is up to you guys. I will go outside to rest. The Sorcerer Knight Order seems to want to talk to me in advance." "Go ahead." However, no Sorcerer Knight Order came to talk to him. When Demps came to the lounge alone, he quickly leaned over the sink and vomited violently. A dim blue piece of meat protruded from his mouth. After confirming that there was no one around, Demps quickly used the sixth finger to seal his own line node. "It's too difficult. The magic has already made my body reach the current limit. After receiving the rebound damage, my body really can't take it. If I don't rely on the ability outside the city, it is indeed very difficult to defeat an official knight from the front. Talent tree, purify magic. To completely control such a high-quality tree, I need to put in more effort." Demps washed his face with cold water and stared at his pale face in the mirror. Suddenly, his eyes suddenly changed. "Who?" A half-meter-long icicle shot directly at the shadow. However, the icicle disappeared into thin air. "Demps Martin, I want to talk to you about the selection of the knights. The great demon captain is very interested in your demon attribute. I am willing to personally guide you in using this pure demon power. Vice-Captain of the Knights of Misfortune, Archimedes Fry." Chapter 547. The Great Demon Captain is willing to offer such a condition? Archimedes showed a strange smile. "That's right, if you are willing to join, you can even talk to the captain about deeper conditions. The great demon captain has all the demon resources in his hands. And the comprehensive index of our knights is not much different from the wizard god knights. That's all I have to say. Privately poaching people is prohibited by the knight headquarters, so I won't say more. The Knights of Misfortune welcome you at any time." After saying that, the deputy captain, who was emitting curses and evil energy, disappeared into the corner. The deputy captain came personally to poach people. He really thinks highly of me. However, the great demon captain is indeed worth making friends with. Mother also specially told me about the strange stories of this captain. If the great demon captain is willing to offer such conditions, I need to seriously consider it. The next match may be Nicholas or Abel's turn. I have to hurry and see. After a period of rest, Demps walked out of the resting area. However, as soon as Demps stepped out of the resting area, the next match in the arena had just ended. Abel Ryan fought against Knight Michalton of the Steam Knights. For the first time, he opened the beast domain and revealed his talent tree, Dragon Beast. With indescribable offensive power and physical strength, he shattered the Steam Knight's exoskeleton armor and won the first victory of a graduate against a knight. At the same time, the exaggerated laughter of Captain came from the audience. But not long after Abel won the victory, the referee announced the result of the battle in the other arena. The match is over. Behemoth Knights, Pansy Smith has lost the ability to move. The winner is Diana. The attention of the audience shifted to this arena, and not many people paid attention to it at all. At the beginning, it was the Behemoth Knights, Pansy Knight, who was proficient in beast summoning, against an underground student whose whole body was hidden in a cloak. At the beginning of the battle, the underground student was immediately suppressed by all kinds of beasts and barely dodged through body movements. Because of Abel's strong performance in the other arena and the outburst of his beast nature, all the audience's attention was drawn away. Suddenly, this knight, who controlled 3 beasts of different attributes and was not weak himself, suddenly fell to the ground and could not get up. It was immediately caught by the observers, who announced the end of the match. As for the winning graduate, Diana, he still couldn't see her face clearly. The corners of the cloak on his body were torn by the wild beasts, revealing only his thin legs and arms. As everyone's attention turned to him, the graduate had already left for the resting area through the nearest exit. Nicholas, did you see the details? Dempus' brows were tightly knitted as he stepped forward to inquire about the situation. Most of my attention was on Abel. I only saw the last few details. That student, in a particularly passive situation, suddenly erupted and instantly closed in on Pansy Knight. My little magic, I wasn't able to see the next move clearly either. The knight seemed to have suffered an extremely strong internal force attack and lost consciousness due to the intense pain. Looks like the finals won't be easy. Demp shrugged. It doesn't matter. It won't affect us much anyway. Han Dong didn't insist on getting first place. His goal was very simple. He only needed to fully display his potential and the part of him that belonged to humans during the conference to raise the Parliament's favorability. They only needed to enter the top 10 and obtain a certain amount of advantages. At this moment, Abel deactivated his berserk beast state. The few dragon scales that appeared on the surface of his body also returned to his skin state. That student just now was very strong. I happened to be in the deepest beast state and could instinctively sense danger. Well, Abel, you should rest well. It's not easy to defeat an official knight. Okay, Abel had many cuts and burns on his body. He was just about to go to the backstage for treatment. At this moment, the referee announced the names of the next batch of students to fight in the arena. Warren Nicholas. The 5 students, please go to the different arenas in order and show the knight's mark that you have drawn. Abel's white ears that were hidden under his hair trembled slightly. His wounds didn't hurt anymore. He was ready to go to the backstage for treatment after watching this match. Vice Captain, you can do it! Nicholas, don't hold back. My dear, show them the power of our mysterious apprentice. Han Dong smiled bitterly and slowly walked to the edge of the arena. Also, when she heard this name, the underground student, Diana, who had just defeated the Beast Knight and quickly left the arena, also quietly stuck to the shadows of the arena's entrance and watched the situation in the arena. Her thin lips softly whispered, "Nicholas, phew. Luckily, Abel was in front of me and defeated a knight in advance. If I also defeated a knight here, I wouldn't get too much attention. I hope Captain Alex won't give me too difficult a question." The thing that Han Dong was most afraid of now was that Grim Reaper was very clear about Han Dong's ability. If he directly sent out a captain-level knight, Han Dong would be defeated before he could fully display his strength. When Han Dong went up the arena, at the same time, he received the attention of many strong people, including Captain Coden, the Great Plague Captain, Captain Keeman, Grim Reaper, Captain Malone, and Captain Hugo, who had temporarily put down his work. At present, other knights who knew about the Great Betrayer incident had heard of this name and also looked over. On the other hand, Crow was also watching the situation in the arena. Han Dong still maintained the appearance of a doctor with a bird's beak. He represented that he was from the Mystery Branch and that he was Mr. Black and White's student. "Nicholas, it's finally your turn." Blood Knight Lucius came to watch the night conference today because he wanted to watch Han Dong's match the most. In the battle at Scarlet Mountain Villa, no one knew how Han Dong defeated Count head-on. As for Han Dong's true strength, it had always been a mystery. Now was the best opportunity to see his strength. In the Lionheart Knights, the blonde and handsome Cass Maldini also came forward. It seemed that due to some special characteristics and privileges, Cass had a high status in the team even though he had just joined the team last year. He directly talked to the captain. "Captain Roland, this is my good friend who helped me break the seed with the secret stone hybrid demon. Yes, the key person in the Great Betrayer incident, Crow's student. Let's see what he's capable of." Roland pressed his fist against his cheek and tilted his head to look at the arena. Just like that, the 5 graduates all went up the arena. Together, they showed the knight's mark that they had drawn. When the other 4 arenas had their corresponding knights, Han Dong's arena did not have a knight for a long time. The Knights of Destiny seemed to be discussing something internally, as if they had something to report to the counselors. As the referee, Observer Alonso also raised his hand to signal everyone to wait. As the counselors expressed their agreement, the messenger sent the application back to the Knights of Destiny. The sky changed color. The haze of death shrouded the Hercules Grand Arena. The black throne in the Knights of Destiny was already empty. The huge silver scythe fell and stabbed into the arena. The thick aura of death gathered into a person who could raise the overall level of the Holy City by 1 level. "I'll spar with you, Nicholas." "Captain Alex, this joke is too big." Chapter 548. "Alex, this guy, he actually used this trick. I'm so pissed off. This guy is still as silent as before." Seeing this scene, Commander Malone could not sit still anymore. From Malone's point of view, Alex was clearly trying to compete for the students. If it were not for the fact that several counselors were watching the battle and approved of Alex's appearance, Malone would definitely be the first to stand up and question the problem with this match. If Nicholas is really taken away by him, I'll bring my daily necessities and stay in Alex's room for 10 days to half a month, forcing him to hand over the student. On the other side, the Secret Whispers Knights. Commander Hugo stared at this scene and revealed a helpless smile. He did not seem to have expected that Han Dong would be so important that the Grim Reaper, who had just returned not long ago, would personally appear. "Commander, this kid is the one you said, the preparatory clerk who can work hard? It seems like it's not easy to recruit him." The puppet master, Knight Charlie, who had just introduced the match, also came forward and stared at this rare scene. Commander Hugo was very casual. "Everything is up to fate. Didn't you join the group because fate had arrived? But I still think highly of this student. Once he joins us, he can share a lot of special work with us. When the time comes, it won't be too much of a problem for you to leave the group." That's great. I really hope that this kid ate some expired food that can affect his brain nerves before the match, causing him to lose his mind and choose our night group. The Grim Reaper had arrived. The other 4 arenas that had already started fighting stopped because of this. The nearby knights and graduates all felt an instinctive sense of fear from the depths of their hearts. The commander represented the highest combat power in the sacred city. The word Grim Reaper had too many meanings, and there were too many legends about Alex. However, Han Dong actually had to face such a legendary figure in the semi-finals. The scene of the Grim Reaper returning and forcing the old king to retreat at the city gate with his own strength was still in Han Dong's mind. Moreover, the powerful Commander Malone had personally admitted that the two of them were once classmates, and Malone was ranked second. Alex had always been at the top and had never fallen. Captain Alex, this, Han Dong's usually clear-headed mind suddenly went blank. It was just like when he was a professor in a university. He suddenly had to discuss academic issues with a master who had just won the Nobel Prize in biology. He was completely dumbfounded. According to the original plan, Han Dong believed that he could win against an ordinary knight. Of course, he also had to save some face for the senior knight. He had to try his best to end the match with both sides suffering losses. If his opponent was a more powerful elite knight, such as Hummingbird and the Puppet Master, Han Dong would also use all of his human ability to stay in the ring for as long as possible to obtain enough points to enter the finals. However, the current situation was completely unexpected. Actually, the fact that Han Dong could maintain a normal standing posture already made many people feel that it was inconceivable. The pressure of the death god could make an official knight unable to stand up. Nicholas, I heard that you fought with Malone in hell. Now let's have a simple spar. Let me directly test your personal strength. So it's because of this reason? Because I had a spar with Captain Malone. So you have to spar with me. It seems that the rumor that Captain Grim Reaper is a little narrow-minded is true. Han Dong smiled bitterly. So this was the reason why the death god personally appeared. Captain, the difference between our levels is too big. How can we spar? It's impossible to fight head-on, right? Before the match started, I have already submitted a special request to the counselors. The spar between us will not be restricted by the usual rules of the semifinals. The mode will be changed to a turn-based. The final score will be evaluated by me. You will have 3 chances to attack me. After you attack me 3 times, I will launch a counterattack. Based on the total of 4 spars, I will determine your score in the semifinals. Okay, Han Dong nodded. At least he did not need to fight with the death god. Han Dong took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down in such a high-pressure environment. The death god's evaluation would definitely be stricter than normal evaluations. If Han Dong's performance was not good enough, he would not be able to enter the finals. After the death god announced the turn-based rules, the audience was in an uproar. No one thought that Han Dong would be able to take the final blow from the death god. Moreover, those who knew the death god knew a little about the situation. Alex was a captain who took everything seriously. Even if he encountered a small evil creature on the road, Alex would take down its scythe and annihilate the target, wiping out its soul. Just before the start of the war, in the nights of pestilence, suddenly many black crows flew over. Because he could not foresee what would happen next, Mr. Black and White also took the time to come to the scene. No expression could be seen on his mask. Obviously, he was also very worried about what would happen next. Black and White, are you going to make a move? Alex doesn't know how to hold back when he attacks. We'll see. If the death god really attacks, I won't be able to block it completely. When the time comes, remember to give me a hand. Okay. A smile appeared on the great Pestilence's face as he nodded. Let's begin. As the death god announced the start of the match, all the other arenas paused. because they were afraid of being affected by death and causing irreparable injuries to themselves. The knights in the other arenas also silently mourned for Han Dong. Even if they were up against the death god, they could only cry and beg for their lives. The first attack, come on. Don't take more than half a minute to prepare. Han Dong took a deep breath. If he wanted to achieve a good result in such a battle that was completely out of his scope, it was definitely not enough to rely on seed. Han Dong used the 30 seconds of preparation time to construct a temporary plan. Time was up. An unbearable smile appeared on Han Dong's face. Facing the situation of the captain, Han Dong could still smile. This also made the audience feel that it was unbelievable. Of course, there was a reason for such a smile. He could relieve stress by laughing wildly. He could activate the hidden energy in his body by laughing wildly. The restrictions of the G-virus have been fully lifted. Warning: the current mutation process may cause the cell load to exceed the upper limit. Please use this ability with caution. Just as everyone was guessing what method Han Dong would use to fuse magic and the plague to deal with the current situation, a mutation occurred. Han Dong's right arm rapidly mutated at an indescribable rate of proliferation. A biochemical arm with all kinds of proliferating organs exposed and large arteries interspersed, completely beyond common sense, directly burst his clothes and grabbed at the death god. Chapter 549. Even the Grim Reaper was a little surprised when he saw such an exaggerated growth arm. The Han Dong he knew was just an outstanding graduate who stepped into the field of special death. He was proficient in the black magic ability that leaned towards the death plague, but he didn't know that Han Dong had such a characteristic. When they were 100 meters apart, in a short 3 seconds, an indescribable or even indescribable arm had reached in front of the Grim Reaper. It seemed that such an exaggerated growth arm would grab the Grim Reaper. However, the arm had further aberration when it was about 5 meters away from the Grim Reaper. Under the situation where the G-virus was not restricted at all, Han Dong could still fine-tune and control it. This was the result of breaking the seed ka. Dense and huge amounts of black fangs grew out from the flesh of the palm. These fangs seemed to be a structure formed by the high-density death sand combined with the growth of the teeth. Strong, black, deadly, and sharp. Hundreds and thousands of densely packed black fangs completely opened up the palm. It turned the palm into a terrifying big mouth, trying to swallow the Grim Reaper in one bite. In the depths of the big mouth where the dense black fangs grew, there seemed to be an eye hidden to analyze the weakest point of the Grim Reaper's defense. Such a terrifying attack shocked even the knights present. Such an attack was enough to threaten them and could even kill them. Splitting up and down, the black fangs biting together. Just as it was about to swallow the Grim Reaper, a silver light flashed. Twist. Buzz buzz buzz, the sound of space being cut apart spread, causing many spectators to cover their ears. The terrifying growth arm was directly cut into pieces of flesh less than 10 centimeters wide and scattered everywhere, except for a little bit of black flesh and teeth that were preserved normally. The other pieces of flesh that fell to the ground were all affected by death and were all turned into powder within a few seconds. The giant silver scythe was in the hands of the skinny Grim Reaper. A cold voice came from under the hood. You have 30 seconds to rest and prepare for the second round of attack. Han Dong laughed awkwardly. He had already activated the G-virus just now. The super terrifying growth and integration of a certain death ability, but it was nothing in front of the Grim Reaper. Furthermore, due to the contact of the silver scythe, the death aura spread from the incision on Han Dong's right arm, forcing Han Dong to cut off his entire arm to prevent the death aura from invading. Enhanced differentiation of stem cells, intertwining of capillaries, and hyperplasia of meat. A brand new right arm grew out. This gave Han Dong 25 seconds to prepare for the next step of the plan. Doze crow. Caw. Although the crow was a coward, under Han Dong's command, it would still do its best to assist. The great rotten bone wings spread open on his back. The black feather cloak fluttered behind him. The living shoulder pads made of 2 crow skulls quickly took shape. Out. The black rune on his palm rotated. As the raven staff appeared in his body, a circle of black ripples appeared under Han Dong's feet. Wherever the ripples went, the ground became a graveyard. Where did a graduate get an epic weapon? Let's not talk about the crowman form. When the staff appeared, it immediately attracted the attention of the audience, especially the Wizard God Knight Regiment who used staffs as their main weapon. When some of the magic knights looked at this perfect staff, their eyes flashed with inexplicable envy, as well as a little greed. What a perfect crow cane! The old Commander Jaros gave his evaluation. The crowman form and the raven staff were a perfect match. At this time, Han Dong exuded a unique aura of a leader, as if he could command an army of crows with a wave of the staff. Ah! So strong! When Commander Malone in the audience saw Han Dong's crowman form, he couldn't help but laugh heartily. Such laughter made the adjutant Otto smile awkwardly. Although he laughed, Malone didn't think highly of Han Dong's current attack method. However, this posture is leaning towards death. Using death to fight Alex head-on is not a good idea. Nicholas, what will you do? Because the council members had received reports about the crowman's abilities from Mr. Black and White in advance, they didn't think of this change as an ability outside the city. It was just Han Dong's use of neutral crowmen and his special black magic specialization. Just as the audience was looking at Han Dong, a big tree full of red fruits that looked like a smiling face slowly appeared behind Han Dong. Then, a red fruit fell into Han Dong's hand. Talent tree form? Han Dong, who was holding the fruit, immediately put it to his mouth and started chewing madly. The red fruit juice stained the corner of his mouth, looking like an exaggerated red mouth. Gulp! As the fruit entered his stomach, something seemed to be forming inside Han Dong's body. It crawled up his esophagus and even went through his throat. Slowly, a crow with blood-red eyes came out of Han Dong's mouth. Blood crow. This was an ability that Han Dong had never used before. Even Abel, Demps, and Mia were puzzled, but they could feel a great threat from this crow. The formation of the blood-eyed crow consumed a lot of Han Dong's energy. At the same time, Han Dong also took out a special item from his body. Anyone who participated in the Battle of Scarlet Mountain Villa would recognize it. Conical eye protection. It was a special item that was originally worn on Count's face. As Crow put on the eye protection item, Crow's eyes lit up. Go! Han Dong waved the staff in his hand. The blood-eyed crow that was standing on Han Dong's shoulder turned into a bloody light and flew straight to Grim Reaper. When the crow flew away, Han Dong couldn't help but kneel on one knee, using the staff to support his body and gasping for breath. This move took almost 50% of Han Dong's talent tree's energy. What a strange move. Grim Reaper was unable to analyze the true attributes of the blood crow for a while. Was it a special summoning technique, a carrier of black magic, or some other evil technique? The silver scythe waved. The slash that was enough to cut through space directly cut the body of the blood crow from the middle. Under normal circumstances, the death damage of the silver scythe would continue to annihilate the blood crow that was cut open. But when the blood crow was cut open, Han Dong, who was kneeling on one knee, smiled. It seemed that the blood crow was not an attack, but a restraint. With the cutting of Grim Reaper, the restraint was destroyed and the true face of this move was revealed. The blood plague, that was concentrated in the body of the blood crow, gushed out. Using a mature hybrid demon to break the seed, Han Dong's starting point was much higher than everyone else's. This black magic was a combination of plague studies and black magic. At the same time, he also received the help of Scarlet Count. Due to the characteristics of the conical eye protection, He actually used the blood plague as the foundation to construct the former Scarlet Count. Moreover, this was Count's final battle posture. He turned his tentacles into two huge dog heads with countless eyes. A few germs had already spread, and small red spots appeared on the surface of Grim Reaper's body. Chapter 550. Time returned to a last night. Han Dong was alone in the dormitory. On the last day, Han Dong did not do any training or study. He only needed to have a good rest. At the same time, Han Dong also needed to discuss something that needed to be prepared in advance. In the bathroom, Han Dong, who had just taken a hot bath, stood in front of the bathroom cabinet and stared at himself in the mirror. He took a sharp razor. It was not used to shave his beard, but to gently cut his finger. However, the blood didn't flow into the pool like he had imagined. Instead, it was in the shape of blood threads, swaying and intertwining in the air. It slowly weaved a small head that Han Dong was familiar with. Scarlet Count wearing a conical eye protector on his eyes. His head was about the size of a normal 16. Ha ha! You are crazier than me. You actually want to keep a wisp of my consciousness. The familiar maniacal laughter echoed in the bathroom. Just as Dempus's mother had seen. Han Dong deliberately kept a wisp of Scarlet Count's consciousness in order to better take over the Scarlet Manor. After all, the network of relationships that Count spent decades building seemed invaluable to Han Dong. As the Lord, Han Dong would definitely be able to use it one day. However, the process of a seed breaking would inevitably kill the hybrid demons. At least their bodies and souls would be absorbed by the night. The reason why Count was able to retain a wisp of consciousness was because of the conical eye protector on his face. It was also an important life-saving means that Count was equipped with. After defeating Count, the conical eye protector was kept in the biological laboratory by Han Dong, sealed and preserved. Not long ago, he slowly tried to release Count's consciousness to carry out some basic communication. Tomorrow's night election, there may be a special situation. At that time, I will need your help. Night election. It's a very interesting human activity. However, I only have a wisp of consciousness left. I can't even try to launch a counterattack in your body. How can I help you when you are in danger? Are you going to find me a blood-descendant body and make me your servant? Han Dong smiled and nodded. More or less. However, I will use a unique method to create a physical body for you to deal with emergencies. Count laughed wildly again. Ha ha, ha. Why do you think I'll help you? We are truly mortal enemies. Mortal enemy? The war between us has already ended, and it was I who obtained victory. You are merely my prisoner of war, the dignified Scarlet Mountain Villas Count. Can't you even accept this little loss? Captive, what an interesting identity. Han Dong continued, if you are willing to help me, I can give you something very interesting. I'll give you the limb of a living creature that also possesses the mad laughter attribute. What is it? Maniacal laughter was an extremely rare attribute. Count, who had the moving title deed, had never seen a second living being with the mad laughter attribute in the process of invading the tribes. When Han Dong said this, Count's interest was immediately piqued. After that, a completely sealed clown's arm was taken out from the brain space. In this kind of situation where they were discussing the transaction and occupying the consciousness, it was naturally inconvenient for the clown's arm to express its own opinion. Well, there really is one. Count could feel the same mad laughter attribute from this strange arm, and at the same time, it also carried a very strange power, a power that he had never seen outside the city. This is not the arm of a living creature outside the city, right? Is it the arm of a living creature that only you humans can enter the destiny space? Yes. If you are willing to cooperate with me, this arm will belong to you as a temporary carrier of your consciousness. By the way, there is something very interesting to tell you, Count. The main body of this arm is my next target. It is a very strong existence in the degree of mad laughter. It is even stronger than you. At that time, we will join hands to kill it, and it's not impossible to give its body to you. Oh, a stronger mad laughter attribute than me? Count's eyes flashed with a bloody light. He was quite interested. Well, as long as you are willing to sign this contract, everything is negotiable. Finally, it was the most important moment. Just like Han Dong used to be a master's mentor, he used various preferential policies to lure students to his research group to act as tools. At present, Han Dong used the faceless skull to create an equal contract. As long as Count signed this contract, he would be completely harmless to Han Dong and could be used by him. Of course, Han Dong, as the second party, would also provide various forms of preferential treatment to Count. Loser clause? Facing Count's question, Han Dong did not deliberately avoid it. More or less. Since you have fallen to this point, is there a better way to live? It is better to continue working with me like this. Maybe you can see a new scene that you have never seen before. No matter what, it is better than directly dying. Destiny space is indeed a field that I am very interested in. Moreover, there is a stronger mad laughter existence than me. Okay. You must take me to see the person who is laughing so wildly. After saying that, Count separated a blood vessel from his face and signed his name at the bottom corner of the contract, Ba. D. Zor Woolacott. Von Dias. Dallin. The arm is yours. Do you need me to erase the consciousness inside? No. Just lend me a little blood. The conical eye guard was used as a bracelet and directly buckled on the clown's arm. Count's head directly turned into a smear of blood and instantly drilled into the arm, forcibly erasing the remnant clown consciousness inside. The remnant clown consciousness carried by the broken limb was absolutely unable to fight against Count. Slowly, a mad laughter mark appeared on the back of the hand. Phew! We finally reached a cooperative relationship in advance. The first step of Han Dong's large-scale plan was finally successful. After establishing a proper relationship, he could find an opportunity to test Count in the night election and carry out an effective attempt. The place where he really needed Count was the Destiny space. Han Dong must ensure the stability and usability of Count before entering Dry Town. The timeline returned. The second move that Han Dong released was to inject Count's consciousness into it. It consumed half of the energy to create a temporary blood plague body for Count. It transformed into Count's strongest state when he was alive and attacked death head-on. This is Hybrid Demon? A mature hybrid demon that can transform tentacles into human form? But there is no pollution factor. How did this kid do it? He stared at the few blood plague spots that appeared on his arm. Death became a little more serious. The silver scythe turned and instantly cut off the two dog heads that attacked from left and right. Facing Count, who was rushing from the front, Death took a step forward and stretched out his empty left hand. A finger just happened to touch Count's forehead. Forbidden technique of the dead, black coffin in an instant. A coffin full of black crosses instantly sealed Count in it and annihilated in death. It resolved Han Dong's second move. However, the two dog heads that were cut off by the scythe earlier died because of the death of the main body. They directly collapsed into a pool of blood. The blood that spread on the arena just combined with the remaining black residual flesh of the first attack, the growing arm. Count's consciousness seemed to have been transferred in advance. Chapter 551. Compared to the first move, the second move was more effective. A small amount of blood plague affected Death's skin and forced Death to use a special move other than the silver scythe attack. Han Dong was able to do this to the extent that many people present were shocked. You still have 30 seconds to rest and prepare for the last attack. Han Dong had recovered from excessive energy consumption. the staff returned to his body. The contracted state with the Dozier Crow was cancelled. The cemetery domain also disappeared and returned to its most ordinary state. For a time, many people present thought that Han Dong had used all his strength in his second attack. At present, he planned to continue the attack but chose to admit defeat and surrender. Before the third move, taking the initiative to admit defeat is also a good choice. After all, once the third move is used, death will counterattack. No matter how outstanding a graduate is, the talent tree in his body has just been formed and no points have been allocated, no nutrients have been poured to stabilize the root. Once he encounters an attack that exceeds his cognitive level, it is likely to leave an injury that can never be healed. Well, after all, the opponent is the #1 person in the Holy City. To be able to do this is already the elite of the elite. The Knight Regiment will fight for him. However, Han Dong was just changing an attack method. In his heart, he never wanted to give up 3 opportunities to attack, since death had specially applied to change the requirements of the semifinals. Therefore, Han Dong had to respect Grim Reaper's decision and complete the challenge to display all of his talents. This way, his position in the Holy City would be more stable. Even if something happened in the future, there was still a chance to save it. No matter how strong the Crow-Man form is, it can't be separated from death. Colliding with death is simply like hitting a stone with an egg. The last attack was only effective because of Count's help, but it was far from enough. Let's try a new ability. I have tried it many times before, and the Holy City will definitely accept this ability, as long as it has nothing to do with the outside of the city. I just hope that Captain Alex won't be too cruel. Han Dong took a deep breath. Without any posture or preparation, he rushed to death in the most ordinary posture. His eyes were firm, and there was no intention of giving up and surrendering. The first 2 attacks were both long-range attacks to avoid being affected by the death aura, which was a good choice in the eyes of the spectating knights. However, the current Meng Chong was very confused. He didn't take out his magic staff, nor did he use his domain. He didn't even have the slightest bit of preparation. Wasn't rushing to his death like this? What is this guy doing? Even many of the captains could not guess Han Dong's thoughts. Commander Olivia of the Holy Pure Knights ordered the knight in charge of Holy Light Healing. If this graduate's life is in danger, Mr. Black and White might intervene. Adele, when the time comes, you should follow them and disperse the aura of death with your holy light. Do your best to save this student's life. Yes. It's just that guild leader. What is he trying to do? You clearly performed well before, so you just need to play it safe for the third move. Special students have special ways of doing things. Commander Olivia seemed to have some special thoughts about Han Dong. Everyone looked at him with puzzled eyes. On the contrary, Han Dong slowly increased the speed of his dash, deepening his death-seeking. Even though with every step he took, he felt the pressure of the aura increase. However, Han Dong was not afraid at all. The net had been completely spread out, and the next step was to carry out the last step. Death, who was directly opposite him, tilted his head slightly. He couldn't understand this confusing behavior. However, the Grim Reaper would not hold back. If Han Dong was truly unprepared and rushed forward, the Grim Reaper would not hesitate to attack. Nicholas, what are you doing? I can't understand this behavior. He entered the attack range. Whoosh! The silver scythe was raised high, carrying a strong death aura. It was just like the fearsome execution platform. The scythe slashed down. Because of the spatial slash, everything within 5 meters of the scythe was affected by the spatial compression and couldn't dodge. Black and White. The Great Plague Master was ready to move. However, Mr. Black and White gestured for him to stay put. Even if the knights in the audience didn't understand Nicholas's confusing behavior, Mr. Black and White knew that his student wouldn't act recklessly. The silver light flashed. Han Dong focused all of his attention on his brain. He focused on his true body, the faceless head. He fully activated one of the two abilities that came with it, imitation. The raven staff that was stored in his body was reactivated in another form. He held the staff's head and tail tightly with both hands, blocking the falling scythe. Ding! The sound of the collision tore through the air in the arena. A crack spread directly from the point of impact to the edge of the arena. The high-density arena was split into two. The feeling changed. Commander Malone's eyes widened. He didn't care about his identity as the commander. He stood up from his seat, leaned forward, and stared at the arena. His actions startled his adjutant, Otto. Similarly, all of the Hell Knights had a certain reaction. They could feel a very authentic power of Hell from Han Dong's body. The Hell student, Sean, who retreated to the side of the arena, also widened his eyes. He didn't expect that in this batch of graduates, there would be a student with Hell attributes like him. But Sean Nibirius's Hell attribute leaned toward the demon system. His physical characteristics and bloodline were related to the great demon system. However, the aura emitted from Han Dong's body was a unique faction in Hell. Hell Monk, Razor, a group of people who underwent special ascetic training in Hell. In terms of strength and status, they were no weaker than demons. However, individuals related to Hell Monks were special existences. This was one of the main reasons why Commander Malone valued Han Dong so much. It was a complete imitation. Han Dong fused with the anomaly, Togu. This was also a brand new ability that Han Dong saw and mastered after breaking the seed. When the feeling of the space being torn by the silver scythe slowly dissipated, Han Dong knelt on one knee, holding an ancient wooden staff wrapped in iron chains in his arms to block the silver scythe. Even though his body was full of cuts due to the cutting of space. However, the iron chains that penetrated his body protected his core organs. He withstood the Grim Reaper's attack head-on. Ha ha ha, so comfortable. While laughing and enjoying, his fingers moved. The proliferated body that was scattered on the ground previously gained a new vitality due to the mixing of Count's blood. Blood seal. Countless red threads shot from all directions and entered the Grim Reaper's body, sealing it. Han Dong used a brand new Hell stance and turned the staff into a staff. He directly hit the Grim Reaper's head with the staff. Chapter 552. There were 3 anomalies. Everyone did their job. Togu's Hellmonk attribute was marked as unique by the system. It was also the attribute that Han Dong valued the most. If he could borrow Togu's undying body when his own body was weak, it would make up for Han Dong's biggest flaw. Since he could form a contract with the Dozecrow, why couldn't he form one with Togu? With this idea, after trying to use Togu's chains, Han Dong had been secretly trying to fuse with Togu. Once he succeeded, Han Dong would obtain the power of Hell. This was also one of the reasons why Han Dong didn't refuse Commander Malone's invitation. There was a certain possibility that he would walk on the path to Hell. Due to Commander Alex's personal arrival, under the pressure of death. Han Dong's condition was excellent. He had reached a level of fusion that he had never touched before in his previous training. He had fused with Togu with a high degree of compatibility. His eyes turned into ashes. Slowly flowing chains could be seen under the skin. He obtained Togu's defense and strength. At the same time, the Raven staff also changed because of this. With the entanglement of Hell's chains, the essence of Hell was injected. As the core of the staff, the lighthouse's source, was a material that could change attributes. For details, see the material's details. The original black magic attribute, core, had become Hell attribute. The staff had also immediately changed into a Hell staff suitable for close combat. The instant switch between long-range and close combat mode. The sealing method that was buried in advance. After the confusing action that the audience didn't understand, The sudden change was completed in an instant. Everyone in the audience widened their eyes. They didn't dare to believe what was happening in front of them. They didn't dare to believe that the god of death would be schemed against. They didn't dare to believe that this staff was about to hit the god of death's head. Did he succeed? Many people didn't think so. After all, the gap between the two was too big. Nicholas, can you survive? Your series of chain loops really angered Alex, this narrow-minded guy. Malone was already standing at the front of the audience. His hands were on the railing as he stared at the unexpected situation in front of him. At the same time, Malone was also preparing to move. In case Alex didn't know the severity of the situation and accidentally killed Han Dong. In the meantime, Mr. Black and White from the Knights of Plague also stepped forward, followed by the Great Plague Master. The moment the staff struck, the rescue began. Han Dong's perspective. He knew very well that there was a huge gap between him and Captain Alex. No matter how he set up a trap, no matter how he caught Captain Alex off guard, there was no way he could win. There was only one purpose for this third attack, and that was to injure the Grim Reaper as much as possible, even if it was just a superficial wound. He swept out with his staff. He had successfully hit the Grim Reaper's head. However, at the moment of impact, the Grim Reaper turned into ashes and dissipated. Dissipate as someone who had stepped into the realm of death, Han Dong could not be more familiar with it. Once, with the help of the Raven God, Han Dong also entered the state of death dissipation when he was fighting with Count. It was difficult for Count to kill Han Dong in any form of attack. However, the current situation was somewhat different. When the stick went down, the god of death, however, was like a fragile shell that turned into ashes and scattered in the air. In the blink of an eye, Han Dong was no longer in the arena. The world of the dead, a desolated gray land. Individuals with incomplete limbs were embedded in the gray soil. Countless souls of the dead converged together, forming an endless river of souls in the sky that led to the end of the world. While Han Dong was immersed in this scene of death, the Grim Reaper Alex had reappeared in front of him. The 3 attacks are over, and you've just received one of my attacks. The individual strength test for the semifinals has been completed, and your performance was satisfactory. To be able to enter the world of the dead normally means that you've stepped into this realm before. How did you do it? The Raven. Alex nodded. It should be because you were threatened by death during the seed breaking, and because of your close relationship with the Crowmen, your consciousness met with the Raven God ahead of time. Captain Alex, do you know him? We're both guests from the world of the dead, so of course we've met before. The first reason I brought you here was to see your attainments in the realm of death, and it seems that you're quite good. The second reason is to see your attitude. So much time has passed, you should have a result in your heart, right? Yes. A Hercules Colosseum. What actually happened in the arena was somewhat different from Han Dong's subjective perspective. The moment the iron chain and the cudgel swept over with brute force, the Grim Reaper's body shook slightly and broke the blood seal barrier that restricted its movement with just one finger. That's right. With just one finger, it completely blocked the heavy cudgel that swept from the side. Han Dong, who was waving the cudgel, was also stunned at this moment, and his eyes were unfocused. His consciousness seemed to have gone somewhere else. Alex, this guy is really despicable. Using such a secret method to negotiate, he must be privately forcing Nicholas to choose to join his knights, or else he'll kill him. If Nicholas really chooses the Knights of Destiny, I must stay at his house tonight. Although Ma Long was very angry, he was still furious. However, Mr. Black and White was very satisfied with such an outcome. He turned into a crow and flew away from the arena. Mr. Black and White was not particularly concerned about which knight regiment Han Dong would choose in the end. When Han Dong's eyes regained their luster, the Grim Reaper had already left the arena with his back turned. A score slip was handed to the referee, Alonso, which meant that the most special semi-final was over. As the Grim Reaper returned to his seat, the audience suddenly burst into loud cheers. The counselors in the special audience seats also analyzed Han Dong's performance in detail. Through every detail of the battle, it was completely confirmed that he did not use any abilities outside the city during the entire battle. In Han Dong's corresponding information file, he was judged to be qualified. Han Dong, who had returned to his normal state, limped down the arena and returned to his friend's team. The first thing that greeted him was Abel's strong arm. "Nicholas, you're really something." When Lee's eyes shone with admiration. "Wow, Vice Captain, you're really strong. If I were to stand in front of the Grim Reaper, I wouldn't even be able to stand." Only Mia looked proud. "Of course my man can do this. What's there to be surprised about?" Of course, the other graduates in the rest area also looked at him in surprise. They did not expect that there would be such a person in their batch of graduate. They could not help but sigh in a low voice. After all, the dazzling brilliance emanating from Han Dong would suppress the brilliance of the other graduates. There would definitely be one less place in the top 10. Demps sneaked behind Han Dong and said softly, "Nicholas, you're putting a lot of pressure on us." Of course, the underground students who are hiding in the dark are under even more pressure. Let me have a good rest first. Whether I can enter the finals is still a question. Chapter 553. After the battle between Han Dong and Grim Reaper, the standard of the night tournament was raised to the highest level. The passion in the arena was completely ignited. The second last round of the tournament. Once again, a graduate won. The winner was also a student from the underground area. His attribute leaned toward undying. He set the record for the longest time in the semifinals, 3 hours and 49 minutes. He won by exhausting the knight's stamina. This unique way of winning also attracted the attention of many people. As his body was hidden in a cloak that was specially made and hard to break, no one could see his true appearance. Thus, there were 3 underground students worth paying attention to. The last round of the semi-finals. Finally, it was Mia's turn to fight. The Hell Knights in charge of the assessment. Since they knew that Mia was the witch's top female student, the Hell Knights sent out an elite Hell Knight with more than 10 years of combat experience to suppress Mia as soon as she entered the arena. Absolute destruction and brute force had been suppressing Mia throughout the entire battle. A mystery branch student actually has such sword skills and body movements? When Mia dodged or parried his many fierce attacks, the dual-wielding Hell Knight slowly realized that things were not as simple as he thought. He had to be serious in order to deal with this graduate. At the same time, the Knights of Misfortune also saw Mia's spider curse in the competition. In the end, the Hell Knight detonated the mark of hell on his body, instantly burning all the spider webs that Mia had spread on the arena. Taking advantage of the explosive force, Mia didn't even have the chance to react, and he kicked her off the arena. It took a total of 31 minutes. It took much longer than Malone and Otto, the 2 leaders of the Hell Knights, expected. To be able to fight with an elite Hell Knight for such a long time, it meant that Mia had a lot of combat experience. Leader, this female student has the spider attribute, and with the Hell Spider Demon, there might be unexpected developments. Moreover, she's also very proficient in herbology. In the previous battle, she had more than 10 rapid herbology treatments. If she joins our team and is trained well, she might become a unique captain. At the same time, the Hell Knight in charge of testing Mia's ability, Turaba Congo, returned. The Black Knight's seemingly strong physique was unharmed in the battle. Currently, in the Knight Regiment, when he slowly took off his armor, there was a scar on his lower abdomen that was constantly emitting purplish-black aura. It was difficult to heal, but this was not the most serious problem. The real danger was the pair of dark purple fangs on the knight's neck. Strange cursed scriptures had already formed around the fangs. With the curse as the core, it could trigger the other wounds on the knight's body and prevent them from healing themselves. It was eroding his body every second. He's very strong. His swordsmanship isn't any weaker than the Crusader graduates of the same level. Furthermore, the weapon of fate in her hand was completely compatible with her own attribute. When used together, her moves were quite strange. Her talent tree also seems to be very special, belonging to the spider curse tree. Her future potential is limitless. As he spoke, the Black Knight gently touched the hole on the side of his neck due to the pain. A small amount of thick juice flowed out from the inside and needed to be treated. Aotua, pay attention to this female student as well. If possible, recruit her as well. Alright. The defeated Mia naturally had a disheartened look. She even felt that she had lost too much face and was somewhat unwilling to return to the team. However, what welcomed her was Han Dong's hug. For the first time, the man that Mia loved was actually so proactive. This unexpected action made Mia's cheeks flushed red. Because of the surge of blood, the wound that had just been stitched up split open again. She immediately fell into Han Dong's arms due to weakness. Your performance was very good. Han Dong gave a very high evaluation of Mia's battle this time. After all, the opponent was not an ordinary knight. Mia had several hidden attacks that were quite strange. If the opponent was an ordinary knight, the final result would be Mia's victory. That was it. The semi-finals were all over. Due to the serious overtime in the middle of the competition, it was already evening. The schedule of the night election would be appropriately extended. The observer Alonso announced. Due to the time problem and a few disputes about the scoring, the finals will be extended to tomorrow. The list of the 10 who advanced to the finals will also be announced at that time. All graduates participating in the competition, please stay in the resting area of the fighting arena. There will be staff members to take you to different resting areas. Before the competition is over, no one is allowed to leave the fighting arena. At the same time, it is absolutely forbidden for any student to have any direct contact with the members of the Knight Order. Once discovered, depending on the severity, your graduation qualification may be revoked. The unexpectedly obtained rest time was also good news for some students who were seriously injured or physically exhausted in the semifinals. Due to Abel's special identity, the 5 of them were assigned to a relatively spacious resting area. If they wanted to sleep, they would lie on the floor or sleep on the bench. In this special environment, they could not ask for too much. In the resting area, because of the comfort that Han Dong just gave, she was now holding on to Han Dong's arm the whole time and did not want to leave for a moment. Also, when everyone was discussing the battle situation today, knock knock knock, there was a knock on the door. The strict rules of the Knight Order are not allowed to have contact with students in order to avoid the situation of poaching people in advance. Is there another graduate here? When Abel stepped forward to open the door, he quickly lowered his head. His face was full of shock, but he tried to be as calm as possible and respectfully said, "Mr. Representative." That's right. Standing at the door was a person wearing a unique representative attire, a white silk coat with a picture of an arbitrator, coupled with a spacious hood with dark gold edges. Under the hood was a middle-aged man with a strange picture drawn on his bald head. His eyes were white as if he had cataract. "Warren Nicholas, come with me." "Okay." Han Dong did not hesitate or worry at all. In today's competition, Han Dong could be said to have performed perfectly and did not expose any ability outside the city. Being summoned by the representative alone might be because of something else. As Han Dong stepped out of the resting area, in the blink of an eye, he came to a completely sealed interrogation room. Spatial ability? Please sit. Han Dong and the representative sat on both sides of the iron table in the middle of the interrogation room. A document was handed to him by the representative. The Parliament is very interested in your thinking ability. I represent the Parliament to ask for your personal opinion. Do you have any thoughts of joining the Parliament? This will not affect your normal joining of the Knight Order. At the same time, you will be a candidate for the Parliament and will receive certain preferential treatment in the process of growth. As for what candidates need to do, abide by, and contribute to the Holy City, I will have to wait for you to agree and sign the treaty before I can tell you in detail. The document handed to Han Dong was the Treaty and Management Measures for the Training of Candidates for Parliament. Chapter 554. It was really unexpected. Han Dong thought that the counselor would guide him on some details. Who knew that he was chosen by the highest level of the council and was being groomed as a candidate. But Han Dong naturally could not agree. Once he became a candidate, he would definitely be listed as a key target of observation by the council. Therefore, Han Dong would have to undergo a thorough medical examination from head to toe, and he might even be exposed to the world outside the city. Moreover, even if he could hide it, Han Dong's various actions in the future might be directly monitored by the council. There would also be a lot of trouble when he went in and out of the Holy City and between the manors. Of course, it would be irrational to refuse directly. After all, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. As long as he agreed, he could obtain unexpected power. Han Dong had to give a reasonable reply. Counselor, this matter will determine my future to a certain extent. All along, whether it is the Crow domain that I am currently proficient in or the level that I can reach, it is closely related to my mentor, Mr. Black and White. As for becoming a candidate, I need to consult my mentor's opinion. I can't give you an accurate reply at the moment. Okay, the counselor nodded slightly and took back the paper terms on the table. Mr. Black and White is an indispensable key figure in the Holy City. I believe that he can give students the right direction. As the counselor left, the illusion of the interrogation room also disappeared. When he returned to the lounge, there was naturally a lot of concern. Han Dong also truthfully told them the situation. What? A counselor candidate? And you didn't agree? For a moment, the four people in the lounge all widened their eyes and stared at Han Dong, speechless for a long time. Well, considering that this identity might restrict me, it would not be good to refuse directly. So I found a reason to postpone it for the time being and make a decision in the future. This answer was a big blow to Abel. Abel was born and raised in the Holy City. He grew up under the influence of the Knight's doctrine and was very clear about some of the basic systems of the Holy City. If he was invited to become a counselor candidate, he would agree without hesitation. Counselor, this is the highest decision-maker in the Holy City, and the identity of a counselor does not overlap with the identity of a knight, and it will not affect too much of your freedom. It only gives you the right to participate in the future planning and decision-making of the Holy City, as well as the right to change the laws. At the same time, you will receive preferential treatment equal to that of the imperial family. In some situations, you will be treated even better than the imperial family. Because of your identity as a candidate for a council member, you will be like a fish in water in the Knight Regiment. Soon, you will be able to sit in a high position. Rumor has it that the Supreme Council will secretly select outstanding young people as candidate. I didn't expect it to be true. Even though the identity of a counselor did not overlap with other identities, Han Dong still did not change his mind. As for preferential treatment, Han Dong didn't really need it. Haha, it's okay. I'll ask Mr. Black and White when I get back. Speaking of which, the 5 of us will most likely enter the finals. Everyone, hurry up and rest. Those underground students are hiding very well. Tomorrow will definitely be a fierce battle. All right. Abel was also in high spirit. He had seen the performance of the underground students, and Commander Kai Meng had also mentioned this matter. He told Abel to pay attention to the 3 monsters, cultivated by the knights in the underground area. They were all threats to Abel's position in the first place. There were only 2 rows of seats in the lounge. Naturally, the 2 girls were allowed to sleep on the bench. The 3 boys were very casual and slept together on the floor. Although Mia wanted to join in, she was stopped by Han Dong's gaze. Moreover, according to the agreement between the two, as long as Mia could enter the top 10, some special requests could also be fulfilled. Just like that, everyone went to bed early to recharge their energy for tomorrow's finals. Late at night, a finger went around the blanket and slowly stuck to Han Dong's body. Without disturbing anyone, it stuck to Han Dong's back and slowly moved up. Suddenly, the finger turned into a spiritual state and penetrated Han Dong's neck to enter his brain. It penetrated the dream. "Nicholas, this is your dream area. Our conversation will not be heard by anyone." This finger was Dempsey's special 6 finger, used to enter the dream area. "You know this move too? By the way, what do you need to say in the dream?" "It's about you being found by the councilman. There's a small problem that I need to confirm with you face to face. I keep feeling that it's a bit strange." Han Dong naturally understood what he meant. "You mean that the councilman invited me to be a candidate despite knowing that I'm definitely outside the city, right?" "That's right, this is a big problem. The Supreme Council is the foundation of the Holy City's stability. They need to prevent anything that could cause the Holy City to fall into a crisis. They definitely won't let suspicious people like you or me be candidate. In other words, it means that the Council may be paying close attention to you and may even do something in the finals tomorrow." "I know what I'm doing. Mr. Black and White will probably help to deal with it." "Well, we can't let anything go wrong at this juncture. We must be careful, very careful. The identity of a knight is very important to us. It's the foundation of our foothold in the Holy City. Demps, aren't you too nervous?" Han Dong was naturally aware of all this and would handle it carefully. However, Demps entering the dream in the middle of the night was indeed a little flustered. The complexity of the council is beyond our imagination. To allow humans to continue living in such a world, it's definitely not just because of a few copper walls that the hybrid demons hate. I'm just afraid that the councilman has done some hidden spiritual inducements to you, so I specially came to the dream to check. Mother cares a lot about my roots in the Holy City. Anyway, we have to be careful. Well, don't worry. The next day. Scumbag. When Han Dong woke up, he saw the agitated Mia pointing at him. "When you fell asleep yesterday, Demps was clearly on the left, Abel was in the middle, and you were on the right, but now the positions have changed. You and Demps are leaning against each other. Did you secretly do something last night?" Clang. Han Dong directly knocked Mia's head with one finger, and a small bump immediately appeared. "If you have time to care about these things, you might as well focus on preparing for today's finals. Let's go." When they set foot in the arena again, it was drizzling in the sky, and the temperature dropped rapidly. The drizzling rain fell on a special, giant, and smooth arena. It took an entire night to rebuild the arena in the arena. It seemed to be completely different from the arena used in the semifinals. Today's finals would be held on this arena. Staring at this arena, Han Dong felt a slight burning sensation on the back of his left hand. The yellow seal seemed to have some reaction. Chapter 555. The burning sensation on the back of his left hand was naturally due to the yellow seal. In such an occasion, the mysterious yellow-robed man naturally couldn't appear. The burning sensation dissipated in a short time, as if it was just a warning. It seems Demp's worries were right. These counselors have special ideas and may make a move on me in today's finals. If I directly withdraw from the finals, I'll also be suspected by the counselors. In the future, they'll use various means to target me, so it's better to erase their doubts directly here. As long as I'm not the first to go on stage, I can carefully observe the strangeness of the arena. Han Dong and Demps looked at each other and reached an agreement. The 13 Knight regiments were all present, but only Commander Hugo of the Secret Words Regiment came. The rest of the members went back to work overtime. According to the scores of yesterday's semifinals, and some special opinions given by the 13 commanders, I will now announce the top 10 of this year's Knight election. The scores of the semifinals are confidential, and the rankings are not given. Students whose names are called, please stand on the Origin Stone Arena for the final battle. 1. The craziest beast in this year's Knight election, Abel Lane. Those whose names were called and represented the top 10. They would take the initiative to choose the Knight regiment to join and enjoy special privileges. When Abel stepped on the arena as the first of the top 10, he received cheers from the audience. At this moment, the memories of the hard training in the past that occupied Abel's mind also disappeared. Everything was worth it. 2. The Red Devil from the depths of hell, Sean Nabirius. The Devil Boy was successful, there was no doubt about it. Even if Sean lost, his opponent was the top draft pick 10 years ago. No graduate could achieve the microcontrol of strength that Sean demonstrated. 3. The Blacksmith's Daughter whose body is comparable to the armor of fate, Wenley Austin. Wow! I'm selected. Wenley's performance was relatively average, but her opponent was the commander of the Hummingbird Guards. The defense displayed by his physical body was extraordinary. In addition, after a discussion among the team leaders, they gave him bonus points. Blacksmith. Wenley had privately obtained a high-grade blacksmith certificate, and there were no more than 100 blacksmiths in the Holy City with such a certificate. 4. Mysterious and unpredictable, like a deadly rose in the night, Diana Epsilon. This Miss Diana was in the same batch as Abel in the semifinals. She was the underground student who had defeated the Knight in an instant by accident. Her face was covered by a cloak, so her appearance could not be seen. However, before this student went up the stage, he seemed to have glanced at Han Dong through his cloak. In such a situation, Mia immediately grabbed her man's arm and looked at the woman with hostility. Don't even think about stealing my man. Mia could accept the fact that people of the same sex were fighting over Han Dong. But if the opposite sex had any thoughts about Han Dong, Mia would never allow it. 5. Hailed as the newcomer with the most magical potential in the library in the past 30 years, the all-around genius who can still switch to a melee combat stance even when facing the nemesis of magic, Demps Martin. When he read Demps's name, he immediately made a gesture of reaching out to adjust the bronze mirror, as if to hide the sixth finger through some mechanism. She successfully stood on this strange stone arena. Her body did not have any special reaction, and she secretly gave Han Dong an okay gesture. 6. As a witch, she has mastered strange swordsmanship that few people know about, Mia Semenovich. As soon as Mia went up the stage, she quickly rushed to the central assembly area. She wanted to see what kind of shameless thing was throwing flirtatious glances at her man. 7. The immortal who has made history in the history of the Knights Conference, the longest battle in the arena, Iguwa Maserazzi. A graduate who was shrouded in a special cloak and whose features could not be seen stepped slowly into the arena. He walked slowly to the center of the arena like a zombie. 8. Proficient in more than 10 types of weapons, the master of weaponry who can perfectly switch weapons according to the rhythm of the battle and the defensive characteristics of the opponent, Brian Greenwich. This was a graduate of the Crusader Academy in the National Royal Knight Academy. His performance was not bad, and he fought back and forth with a knight. However, compared to the other students who defeated knights, he was not particularly dazzling. His bronze body, which was more than 9 meters tall, was equipped with his unique weapon manual. He strode up the stage. He looked like a very interesting graduate. 9. a special student who is suspected of deliberately holding back his strength in the semifinals and deliberately controlling his score so that he could just reach the passing line of the top 10, Gully Xavier. Huh? Controlling the score? Such an introduction immediately attracted the attention of a large number of people. This was not an ordinary exam where one just had to control the score of 60, just enough to reach the passing line. Because all the students' evaluation scores were confidential, it was not possible to reach the top 10 just by being a genius. Every match in the semifinals had to be completely objective and carefully observed before they dared to use score control. This person is very strong. To be able to control the score, it means that he has absolutely perfect observation and evaluation of the performance of the 50 students. Then, he let himself show the strength corresponding to the 10th place and complete the semifinals without completely hiding his true strength. How did this guy do it? Han Dong had also seen all the matches, but he had little impression of this person's matches. This Gully Xavier was a male student who wrapped his body in a woolen coat. Only a pair of cold eyes were exposed, and he was wearing a pair of long leather shoes. However, Han Dong was still able to see some inhuman details. Between his brown and fluffy hair, there were a few exquisite steel nails that were inserted into his skull, completely concealing his aura, not revealing any details that can be observed. This finals seems to be really not simple. Han Dong silently remembered this student in his heart. Next, it was finally time to announce the final top 10 contestant. 10. The most unexpected graduate who was able to face the Grim Reaper directly and complete the death assessment. He's a special student from the mystery branch, Warren Nicholas. Han Dong glanced at the Grim Reaper captain in the audience seats, nodded slightly, and stepped into the arena. Everything was normal. Han Dong came to the center of the arena. The finals of this year's night tournament had officially begun. The rules were simple. The final ranking of the 10 contestants would be determined through the most primitive 1v1 combat mode. The lottery box floated down again. The 10 students had to draw a piece of paper from it, and those with the same pattern would be matched. Pattern matching. Perhaps these patterns have other meanings besides matching opponents? Chapter 556. Symbol. Stone wall. Han Dong drew a stone wall symbol on the paper in his hand. He immediately looked at his teammates to see if they had the same symbol. Han Dong didn't want to meet his teammates now. Of course, it didn't matter if they met Mia and Wunli. However, if they met Abel and Demps in advance, the situation would be very troublesome. Abel Leon drew the symbol. However, the other team members drew the symbol frowny face symbol, flame symbol, light symbol, lake symbol, gale. They're all separated. The probability is a bit low. Is it on purpose or are we really lucky? This meant that their opponents were the 5 strangers in front of them. Observer Alonso announced, "The results have been drawn. The individual duels of the finals are as follows. Abel Leon, 100 Beasts, vs Brian Greenwich, 10 Soldiers. Setting, Flaming Mountain. Demps Martin, Magician, vs Igua Mazerazzi, Undying. Setting, Mirror Lake. Wunli Austin, Blacksmith, vs Sean Nabirius, Demon. Setting, Church of Light. Mia Semenovich, Spider, vs Gully Charlie. Setting, Cloud World. Warren Nicholas, Crow, vs Diana Epsilon, Black Rose. Setting, Stone City. When she heard the results of the draw, Mia was shocked. A hint of fear flashed in her eyes. She wasn't stupid at all. She paid more attention to the various opponents in the finals than anyone else. The top 10 contestants were all strong. However, there were still differences between the strong and the strong. The Gully Charlie that Mia drew in the finals was very likely to be ranked high. How can my man be paired with that flirtatious slut? No. I want to change. Mia seemed to be jealous and didn't want Han Dong to fight with that female student. However, she was actually using jealousy as an excuse to change the contestant. Han Dong could naturally see the problem from Mia's terrible acting. Moreover, the drawing of lots had already been decided, so the rules naturally could not be changed. He put a hand on Mia's shoulder. Mia, you've already made it to the top 10. There's no need to fight to the death in the following matches. If you sense any abnormality or danger from your opponent, immediately choose to surrender. Understand? Oh, Mia nodded slightly. Because of this kind of concern, a real blush appeared on her cheek. Don't lose. That shameless woman seems to be quite powerful. Yes. The match will proceed according to the order announced by referee Alonso. Abel was still the first to fight. His opponent was Brian, a weapon master from the Crusader division, who carried the weapon manual. Dempus quietly exhorted, "Don't worry, Captain Abel. Although this student's performance in the semifinals wasn't particularly eye-catching, we still have to be careful. The Berserker Dao, who went to the training camp with us, had a lower overall score than this person. He seemed to have been born in the weaponry family and had been receiving internal training until last year when he transferred to the Knight Academy. He's the best student in this year's crusade." Yes. Abel's personality made him never underestimate any opponent. Slightly stabilizing the animal bone ring on his left finger, Abel and Brian stayed in the raw stone arena while the other graduates temporarily retreated. At this time, four mysterious counselors appeared at the four corners of the arena. Together, they launched a secret technique to trigger a change in the raw stone. A wave of heat quickly swept through the entire arena. The originally ordinary arena turned into a volcanic zone with rolling hot lava in a short period of time. The next match would be carried out in such an environment. The four counselors still stood in the corners of the arena. Maybe they were stabilizing the raw stone scene, or maybe they had other purposes. Han Dong stared at the four counselors whose faces were hidden in their hoods and felt uncomfortable. The first match of the finals officially began. In terms of figure, Brian was taller than Abel. He had a bronze body of 1.9 meters. It could be seen that he had never neglected the training of his body. Even since he was 3 years old, Brian's family had developed a perfect body training plan for him. Only a perfect body could perfectly control all kinds of weapons. He was fully trained by the family. Last year, he was recognized by the family and transferred to the National Royal Knight Academy Crusade. He immediately won the first place in the final test. As for the weapon manual, it was a space storage device given to him by his family. Every time Brian stepped into the Destiny space, he would try his best to harvest all kinds of Destiny weapons. At the same time, he would borrow his family's money to buy high-quality materials circulating in the market for weapons. The weapon manual was released. At present, a heavy round shield and a black iron halberd were in Brian's hand. The full moon scimitar and the short sword were crossed on his back. Talent tree weapon master, that's right. Brian's talent tree had a steel-like texture. A variety of basic weapons were hanging on the branches. He was proficient in fighting and various skills. He could deal with any kind of battle and unexpected situation. Abel Ryan, the eldest grandson of Kaimon Ryan, recognized as the #1 student in the Royal Knight Academy. I have been studying you through various kinds of information. In the Destiny space and outside the city, I have been fighting with various kinds of strange beasts to hone my skills in dealing with beasts. Come, let me feel the strength of 100 beasts. Buzz. All of a sudden, it was beyond Brian's understanding. Abel, who was faster than in the semi-finals, turned into a black panther and disappeared from his original position. He jumped on the magma stones and quickly approached Brian. So fast! Brian's well-trained muscle reaction was the first time he waved the round shield to block and repel Abel. However, because Abel's speed was too fast, Brian missed the perfect opportunity to block. The leopard and bear switch. The attributes of speed and strength were reversed in an instant. In the face of Brian's shield attack, Abel directly used the bear's palm to collide head-on without the slightest fear. However, this time the bear palm was somewhat different from the previous one. Dragon. Some of the people with good eyesight could vaguely see some dragon shadows from the aura of the beast. Because of the giant bear form, the arms had become twice the original size. There were also dragon muscles and dragon scales appearing. The strength was maximized. Boom. Ka. The excellent quality of the Destiny round shield was directly smashed from the middle by Abel's palm. Brian's arm muscles and bones were completely broken, and even 2 of his ribs were broken. The impact of the bear palm passed through the round shield, arm, and torso. In one breath, Brian was uprooted by this impact, and his whole body flew straight to the magma area. Because the impact was too strong, even Brian's brain was still in a daze, and he could not react at all. When he was about to fall, Abel jumped in the air and continued to kick him out of the arena. The first round, Abel Ryan won. Chapter 557. Brian's corresponding noble family, the Greenwich family, was also present. They wanted to see how their newly trained weapon master would teach the students of the Knight Academy a lesson. At the same time, their family also wanted to indirectly prove that their family's education was not worse than the public Knight Academy. It was even more specialized and superior. Because Brian had successfully entered the top 10, the whole family had a proud expression on their faces. They had an inexplicable sense of superiority as they watched the finals. Just when Brian was killed in one hit, everyone's expression froze. It was quite funny. At the same time, Commander Keenan slapped the ground repeatedly and let out a beastly laughter that shook the entire arena. Commander Olivia, who was sitting next to him, smiled and tilted her head. Congratulations to Commander Keenan for having an heir. Indeed, in terms of talent, you are stronger than when you were young. It was also because of the priest's words that Keenan slowly suppressed his laughter. He lifted the wine barrel that was prepared at the side and did not pour the wine that was stored inside. Instead, he drank the entire barrel together with the barrel. This drinking method was the same as ordinary people eating alcohol and candy. Commander Keenan touched the fangs that grew out from his chin and gave a simple evaluation. Abel's beasts originated from one. This kind of layman who trained all kinds of weapons separately is no match for him. The strongest body is the true strongest. The dragon shadow also showed more obvious just now. The semi-final night evaluation made him stronger. As expected of my grandson. Abel's performance also caused the counselors to discuss at the same time. The other 8 people who were watching below the stage also had different degrees of surprise. Phew! Fortunately, I didn't draw Abel. Otherwise, I might have been eliminated at the beginning. Han Dong heaved a sigh of relief and continued mumbling. After Abel broke the seed with the hybrid beast, hybrid demon, he has trained hard for more than 10 years with all kinds of beast knight. At this moment, he has fully refined his skills. It is very likely that he will take first place in this year's night tournament. The scene in the Mountain of Flames returned to normal. Let's invite the graduates of the second round to the stage. Phew! Demps adjusted the bronze mirror, tidied up his clothes, and stepped onto the stage. There was no confidence or worry on Demps's face. He was just looking at the upcoming gladiatorial battle as if nothing had happened. The immortal, Igua Masarazzi, slowly stepped onto the ring with a gait similar to that of zombies in movies. He dragged his weak body to the corresponding position. The counselors joined forces to cast a spell. The arena made of raw stones changed once again. Mirror Lake. The surface of the lake was as smooth and tranquil as a mirror. The small fish swimming in the lake could be seen clearly, and the reflection of oneself could also be seen clearly. Individuals could freely step on the water surface and would never sink into it. Every time it came into contact with the water, a layer of ripples would slowly spread out. Mirror Lake was a buff-type domain. It increased one's affinity with the water element and gave one a calming attribute. Let the competition begin. Perhaps it was due to the influence of the Mirror Lake, but the pace of the second round was very slow. Demps didn't make the first impression. Instead, he bowed slightly to his opponent to show his friendliness. The Undying didn't do anything either. In the semifinals, he stood like this, waiting until the knight in charge of assessing his strength ran out of patience and launched an attack. A little interesting, Demps seemed to have seen through something. He didn't have any intention of attacking. Instead, he chose to sit cross-legged on the lake and entered a state of meditation. Demps meditated. Igua also stood in the same place. The fighting arena fell into silence, and the frenzy caused by Abel's opening slowly subsided. As a result, unknowingly, an hour passed. The two still didn't do anything. If this continued, it was possible to wait for a whole day. Such a situation was not considered in advance. It would seriously affect the expected process of the night's conference. The councilman immediately summoned the referee, the observer, Alonso. At the same time, he added a temporary rule based on the opinions of the captains. Now, a mandatory battle rule is added. Within 10 minutes, if the contestant doesn't cause any form of damage to the opponent, it will be regarded as loss of mobility, and the match will be lost. If neither of them causes any damage to the other, it will be regarded as defeat, and fall into the elimination group. When this rule was announced, they thought that a fierce battle was about to begin. Who knew? The surface of the lake was still as calm as a mirror. There were no ripples. The two of them still maintained their original posture. Time was passing by minute by minute. The rule is to cause damage. If the time drags to the end, it will be too late. Nicholas, what do you think? Abel, who had just finished the match, was still a little nervous. If it were him, he would have already gone up to fight. With Demps' ability, Abel knew very well that he shouldn't fall here. Demps is very smart. This immortal seems to have some peculiarity. If he makes the first move, he may step into the opponent's rhythm. He will slowly lose the initiative of the match. The final result will be the same as the semifinals. Demps' physical strength will be exhausted and he will lose the match. Therefore, Demps also saw this point. From the beginning, he didn't intend to be prejudiced by first impressions. Even with the current rule, Demps' thoughts were as calm as a mirror lake. There would be no change at all. Victory will be seen as defeat. What's so special about this underground student? Abel was also more and more curious. I don't know. It's just intuition. Demps will naturally see more clearly when he fights with this person. The real match will start in the last minute. Demps won't affect the outcome, but it doesn't mean that the other person doesn't care. Just like that. Under the 10-minute time limit, Demps didn't move at all. He took advantage of such a quiet environment to improve his state of mind. He didn't take the outcome of the finals seriously at all. Finally, when there was only 1 minute left, Igor, who had the mentality of winning, finally moved. In the audience, many knights who were asleep were woken up by their companions to watch this strange match. You didn't plan to win from the beginning? A hoarse voice with damaged vocal cords came from under the hood, but it could be clearly heard by Demps. Demps, who was meditating, also responded. No. I just didn't want to be the first to make the move. Your territory is the strangest territory I've ever seen. It's invisible, but it's like a quagmire. It'll be troublesome if you voluntarily fall into it. You're worthy of being a top student cultivated by a top academy. Under his cloak, Igor slowly stretched out his arm that was as old as the dead, and made a grasping motion. At the same time, Demps exhaled a cool breeze from his mouth, and carried his body backward. Swish, several terrifying zombie arms drilled out of the lake. If Demps had been a step slower, he would have been torn to pieces. Demps said with a smile, You seem to have violated the necromancer's doctrine. You actually refined your own body into a corpse. I think Captain Alex didn't allow it, right? It's just that when Captain returned to the city, you had already stepped into the forbidden zone. There's no turning back. As soon as he said this, Igor seemed to be angered. The entire Mirror Lake was filled with the wails of the dead. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.